Chapter 488. The legitimate daughter of Duke Ling's mansion? No wonder she dared to say such things about Wuxia. Duke Ling's mansion was a first-class duke's mansion in Tianyu Empire and was greatly relied on by the emperor. Their status in Tianyu Empire was similar to the Luo family in Dongli country. Most importantly, the old Duke Ling and the old master of the Lanhua family were close friends. Based on this point alone, Ling Yu's status in Tianyu Empire wasn't inferior to Wuxia's. No wonder she dared to say such things about Wuxia and wasn't afraid of being punished. While the two of them were talking, Wuxia arrived with her lackeys. Seeing Luo Qingtong and Ling Yu talking together, she immediately snorted and glared at them. Wuxia was also first place in this year's enrollment. As for how much of it was fake, no one knew. In any case, Tianyu Empire was vast and had many counties. It was easy for Wuxia to get first place. She glared fiercely at the two of them. Before Luo Qingtong could say anything, Ling Yu sneered and retorted. "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen anyone prettier than you? Wuxia, look at yourself. You look like you're going to frustrate someone to death and you still have the nerve to stand in first place? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" Wuxia had just fought with Shi Qingqing and her clothes were a bit messy, but it definitely wasn't to the point of frustrating someone to death, as Ling Yu said. It was obvious that Ling Yu was deliberately dissing Wuxia. Wuxia gritted her teeth in anger after being mercilessly ridiculed by Ling Yu. Don't be too smug. Especially you, Luo Qingtong. She couldn't use the power of Tianyu's imperial family to deal with Luo Qingtong. The latter wasn't afraid of them breaking off the engagement. But that didn't mean she couldn't do anything to Luo Qingtong. There were all kinds of competitions in Tianyu branch. Sooner or later, she would teach Luo Qingtong a lesson. There was also Ling Yu, the bitch who had fought with her since childhood. Wuxia looked at the two of them and gritted her teeth. Luo Qingtong was too lazy to pay attention to her. She was barking like a mad dog. However, Ling Yu was unwilling to be outdone. Humph. If you can't win, then you'll just say those words. Wuxia, after so many years, you still haven't made any progress. If you have the ability, then just do it. If you don't, then shut up. As she spoke, she cracked the whip in her hand. Wuxia was so angry that her nose was almost crooked. At this moment, the voice of the principal of the Tianyu Branch Academy rang out. Silence. Following his words, the commotion in the square fell silent. In an instant, the gazes of the crowd gathered on the principal of Tianyu Branch. Today is the competition for the prize for the first place among the freshmen. It's also a grand occasion for our academy's new semester. Everyone, please pay attention. Next, I will announce the rules of the contest. All the first-place students will enter the space of the academy's historical tablet with their consciousness to challenge it. Apart from their own strength, no external help can be used. At the end of the contest, all 10 weapons will be taken away. In the space of the Academy's historical tablet, killing, fighting, and all possible methods are allowed. The winner will have their names recorded in the Academy's historical tablet. The better the results, the higher the ranking in the Academy's historical tablet. I hope everyone will do their best. Bring glory to Tianyu Branch Academy. As he spoke, he suddenly raised his right hand and swung it down. Then, let the competition for the prize for the first place begin. As he waved his hand, countless rays of light shot out from the Academy's historical tablet and enveloped the crowd of top students. Swoosh. Chapter 489. Swish, swish, swish. As Luo Qingtong's figure appeared, many first-place students also appeared beside her. Obviously, this was the space in the Academy's historical tablet. As Luo Qingtong and the others appeared here, the surrounding space suddenly vibrated. 10 passageways suddenly appeared in the darkness in front of him. There was a huge bronze door at the top of each passage. A weapon suddenly appeared above each of the 10 passages. These 10 weapons were the spoils of war for the first-place freshman reward. It was very obvious that the first-place freshmen could enter whichever passageway they wanted to obtain a weapon. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at the 10 weapon shadows floating above the passages. She easily felt a trace of inscription aura from one of the long swords. This trace of aura might be too weak for others to sense. However, Luo Qingtong possessed the life and death dual form sword and had comprehended the inscriptions on it. Naturally, she was familiar with this trace of inscription aura. However, isn't this inscription aura too weak? Moreover, what on earth is this inscription pattern? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she looked at the long sword. Didn't that Song Cheng study inscriptions for decades? How could these inscription patterns be so ugly? If not for the fact that Luo Qingtong recognized the inscription aura on it, she wouldn't have believed that this was an inscription tool. No wonder Song Cheng studied inscriptions for so many years and others only thought that he was crazy. This talent was simply too touching. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong only looked for him to learn about inscriptions. Looking at the inscription pattern that Song Cheng had drawn, it was obvious that he had mastered the most basic knowledge. However, the inscription pattern that he had drawn was too weak. It was as if there was nothing there. The corners of Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. While Luo Qingtong's eyes were focused on the long sword, Yu Wenshue's eyes were also fixed on it. She had received the news earlier that one of the 10 weapons awarded to the first place of the new students had suddenly changed. This weapon was something that the dean had specially instructed them to exchange for. It was extremely extraordinary. That was the truth. The Wind and Lightning Sword was a martial emperor-level spirit weapon. To Song Cheng, it was just a piece of trash that he could use to practice inscriptions on. But to the people of the Tianyu Empire, it was a top treasure. Even the imperial family of Tianyu only had a few martial emperor-level weapons, and they were all with the ancestors. Although Song Cheng had concealed the Wind Thunder Sword's aura, preventing others from identifying the weapon's rank, the quality of the sword was obvious. It was no ordinary weapon. At the very least, it was more precious than the other 9 weapons. Whoosh! Yu Wenshue's figure flashed towards the passage. However, as soon as she moved, another figure was faster than her. Ha! Laughter that sounded like silver bells rang out. Ling Yu's figure passed by her in an instant and entered the passageway. Yu Wenshue, you've also taken a fancy to this weapon? Sorry, I'm the first one. As she spoke, she swung her whip, opened the bronze door, and rushed in. Ling Yu. Seeing this scene, Yu Wenshue was instantly infuriated. This B*TCH must have seen that she was going to enter the passageway, so she deliberately followed her in. She even beat her to it. Thinking of this, Yu Wenshue gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. She then rushed in. Chapter 490. Swoosh! 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 Many first-place students each chose the weapon they wanted and entered the corresponding passage. Many people had noticed the fight between Yu Wenshue and Ling Yu. Some first-place students had also guessed that the weapon in this passage was the best among the 10. However, when they thought of competing with Yu Wenshue and Ling Yu, many powerful first-place students flinched. One of them was the legitimate princess of the Yuan royal family, the younger sister of the genius Yuan Mo. She was extremely powerful and couldn't be offended. The other was the legitimate daughter of Duke Ling's mansion. She was one of the top students among this year's first-place students. Rather than competing with them, it was better to take a step back and fight for other weapons. Perhaps there would be a chance. Thinking of this, except for some first-place students who wanted to curry favor with the two of them, the other first-place students who wanted to win the weapon reward all went to other passages. Of course, this was also because they didn't know the level of the Wind and Thunder Sword. Otherwise, it would be worth offending the entire Tianyu Empire, let alone the two of them. After all, it was a martial emperor-level weapon. If it was given to any expert, it would be enough to receive protection from a force not weaker than the Tianyu Empire. After most of the people had left, Luo Qingtong finally figured out her current situation. Her consciousness had entered the space of the Academy's historical tablet. Because her eye technique was together with her soul, it was brought in. However, Little Pig, the life and death sword, and the 9-story exquisite pagoda didn't follow in. This should be to ensure the fairness of the competition for the reward. Otherwise, the disciples of aristocratic families like Yu Wenxue and Ling Yu, who were already strong and had various spiritual armors and weapons, would have no suspense at all in this competition for the reward. Now, everyone spoke with their own strength, which increased the possibility of winning. However, for Luo Qingtong, her eye technique was enough for her to sweep through. She was determined to get the wind and thunder sword. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong's figure swept into the passage. 9 Ben's maze. As her figure swept into the bronze door, 4 big words suddenly appeared in front of her. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly as the scene in front of her changed. Countless passages suddenly appeared in front of him. They were surrounded by layers of dark gray walls. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. In an instant, the bloody light in her eyes intensified and her pupils turned blood-red. Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils were beautiful and bewitching to the extreme, making her look like a monster from purgatory. Beautiful, bewitching, dangerous. Whoosh! She leaped into the air and found the correct path in an instant. Then, she dashed into the depths of the maze. Yu Wenxue and Ling Yu, who had entered the passage before her, were already facing each other. Both of them were the top noble ladies in the Tianyu Empire. Yu Wenshue's family background was strong and her influence was strong. Ling Yu's identity was not weak either. Most importantly, she was stronger than Yu Wenxue. Almost all the top students who entered this passageway were attached to the two of them. After all, their strength and influence were inferior to Yu Wenxue and Ling Yu. If they didn't submit to them, they would only be eliminated. On the contrary, if they relied on them, as long as the other party was rewarded, they would also be able to obtain great benefits. Chapter 491. Bang! 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 Both parties clashed. Ling Yu's side was obviously stronger than Yu Wenshue's side. After all, her talent was much stronger than Yu Wenshue's. Some of the stronger top students were on her side. In comparison, Yu Wenshue's side was much weaker. However, just as Ling Yu and the rest thought they had won, swish! 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 As they chased Yu Wenxue into an alley, countless locust-like arrows suddenly flew out from all directions. In an instant, the top students beside Ling Yu screamed as they were hit by the arrows and disappeared into the tunnel. According to the school's historical tablet, once one failed the challenge and died, their consciousness would return to their bodies. However, the damage would be reflected back into the body, allowing the person to gain great experience. At the same time, it was also to let the other students who didn't know the situation inside see how the top students failed and directly understand their strength. This was also to train the top students. Ah! The top students who were hit by the arrows screamed as they retreated from the space of the school's historical tablet. They fell to the ground and were in a sorry state. Apart from the fear of death, holes appeared in the places where they were hit by the arrows. Although it was only a little blood, it told them that everything they experienced in the school's historical tablet was not completely fake. Bang! 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 The people around Ling Yu disappeared one by one. She also suffered serious injuries. After the round of arrows, she couldn't even stand properly. As for the people around her, from the dozens at the beginning, there were only 5 of them left. Yu Wenxue, Ling Yu's heart was filled with hatred when she saw Wuxia leading people out from the corner of the tunnel next door. She never thought that Wuxia would set her up. However, they had been fighting ever since they entered the Nine Bends maze. How did Wuxia know that there was a mechanism in the tunnel and deliberately led her here? Ling Yu didn't expect this, right? Seeing her expression, Wuxia was indescribably pleased. You can't believe it, right? Unfortunately, Ling Yu probably don't know that I have a map of the Nine Bends maze. This is the reward and privilege that my brother won. Wuxia raised her head as she spoke. You must know that my royal brother broke through 3 passages in a row. Not only did he get the first place reward of the passage he chose, he also found the hidden nodes between the passages and took the weapons of the other 2 passages. It could be said that he broke the Academy's record in one fell swoop. This matter is still recorded on the Academy's historical tablet. At that time, my brother received this reward. It was given to him by the Academy's historical tablet. No one knew about it. When Wuxia said this, she sneered at Ling Yu. You want to fight with me? Ling Yu, you're courting death. How do you think I should deal with you this time? Whatever you do in this historical steel, the outside world will reflect back on you. Chapter 492. Wuxia, don't you dare. Before she could finish her sentence, Ling Yu had already cried out with a pale face. Humph. Why wouldn't I dare? Wuxia sneered at Ling Yu. You don't think that this is outside, do you? Ling Yu, isn't it normal for something to happen in the school's historical tablet? So many people have come in here and something will happen to them. Why should you, Ling Yu, be safe and sound? Are you joking? When Wuxia said this, she laughed loudly. Ling Yu, let me tell you, no matter what I do to you here, your Duke Ling's mansion won't be able to find me. It's a pity that Luo Qingtong didn't come in. Otherwise, I'll let her have a taste of this with you. Let's see if she can still put on airs in front of me as my royal brother's fiancée. Thinking of how Luo Qingtong had forced her to kneel and apologize in front of so many people, Wuxia's heart was filled with hatred. That slut, wasn't she just relying on the fact that her royal brother had to marry her, so she didn't dare to do anything to her? If she made a fool of herself in front of the entire school and lost her reputation, let's see if she can still be arrogant in front of her. She even put on airs as her sister-in-law. How disgusting. Wuxia gritted her teeth as she thought. Not far away, Luo Qingtong, who had just caught up, suddenly raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect to be implicated even when her own people weren't around. Originally, Luo Qingtong was still thinking about whether to help Ling Yu. After all, an enemy's enemy is a friend. She really liked the way Ling Yu dissed Wuxia. But now, it seemed that there was no need to think about it. She would definitely help Ling Yu. Not only would she help, but she would also make Wuxia suffer. She would let her enjoy the punishment that the other party had mentioned. Luo Qingtong snorted coldly. Ling Yu, Luo Qingtong's voice quietly swept past Wuxia and the others and entered Ling Yu's ears. You can still move, right? Luo Qingtong? Ling Yu was shocked when she heard her voice, but she quickly reacted. She didn't say anything and just nodded slightly. Sure, she said in her mind. Okay, follow my instructions. Luo Qingtong's words were unusually concise. She was not afraid that Ling Yu would not do as she said. Now, other than her, who else could help Ling Yu? Let's not talk about suicide first. Wuxia had so many people surrounding her, how could she not guard against this move? Therefore, if Ling Yu wanted to be fine, she could only listen to her. He could only trust her. Run towards the alley in front. Keep running, don't turn. No matter what happens, don't stop. If you believe me, then do it. If you don't, then it's up to you. As Luo Qingtong spoke, her figure had already leaped out from the darkness and swept towards the alley that she had chosen. It was a wooden puppet alley. She would give Yuan Shui a huge surprise. When Luo Qingtong's figure flew up, Ling Yu also made up her mind. Whoosh! The long whip in her hand lashed out like a poisonous dragon. In an instant, the two top students in front of her were sent flying. You guys cover me and rush out. I won't treat you unfairly, she said to the 5 top students who were following her. The 5 of them were also injured and moved when they heard her words. They instantly rushed in front of those who wanted to stop Ling Yu from leaving and used their bodies to block the other party. Anyway, according to the school's historical tablet, it was impossible to really die. At most, they would suffer a little. To be able to get Ling Yu's promise, it was worth it. Catch her. Seeing Ling Yu rush out of the encirclement, Yuan Shui immediately stomped her feet and chased after her. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Ling Yu's figure constantly swept through the passageway and kept rushing forward. Chapter 493. Bang! Just as she was about to rush into the alley that Luo Qingtong had mentioned, a tall figure suddenly rushed out from the front. That figure was almost 2 meters tall and was as sturdy as an iron tower. Its entire body flickered with a metallic luster. Ironwood Armored Man. When this Ironwood Armored Man appeared, Ling Yu's heart trembled violently. She almost couldn't control herself and stopped in her tracks. However, when she thought of what Luo Qingtong had said in her mind, she still braced herself and rushed forward. Dying in the hands of these armored men was better than being humiliated to death by Ling Yu. Moreover, Luo Qingtong and Yuan Shui didn't have a good relationship. It was unlikely that she would harm her. Even if she really used herself as bait to send herself to her death, as long as she could deal with Yuan Shui, she was willing to die. In any case, she wouldn't really die in the space of the historical tablet. At most, she wouldn't want the weapon reward this time. She wanted Yuan Shui to be unlucky. With that thought, Ling Yu rushed into the alley without any hesitation. She didn't care about the armored men that appeared in front of her one after another. However, the strange thing was that after she rushed into the alley, those armored men didn't attack her. After they appeared, they just stood there. Yuan Shui, who had stopped chasing, was stunned when she saw this scene. She naturally knew that the alley in front of her was the armored man alley, so she didn't continue to chase. However, looking at the current situation, this armored man alley's mechanism array seemed to have malfunctioned. It actually didn't attack Ling Yu. When she realized this, Yuan Shui instantly widened her eyes. How could this be? It was a small matter that Ling Yu ran away, but it was a big matter that she snatched the weapon reward. How could Yuan Shui allow the thing in her hands to fly away? Moreover, it was rare for her to find an opportunity to deal with Ling Yu. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know when the next time would be. She definitely couldn't let her escape so easily. With that thought, Yuan Shui suddenly waved her hand. Chase! The people around her also realized that the mechanism in front of them seemed to have malfunctioned and immediately rushed forward without hesitation. However, just as they rushed into the alley, a voice rang out. In an instant, those mechanical mechas that were originally standing still and allowing Ling Yu to pass through suddenly moved. Boom boom boom. They charged towards Yuan Shui and the others. Almost instantly, Yuan Shui and the others were surrounded. At this moment, Ling Yu had already rushed out of the alley. Before she could catch her breath, she heard screams coming from behind her. This voice, it seemed to belong to Yuan Shui and the others. Ling Yu was stunned for a moment before she turned her head to look behind her. The corners of her eyes twitched when she saw what was in front of her. In the middle of the alley, the mecha soldiers surrounded Yuan Shui and the others. Then, they began to tear their clothes. Ling Yu stared dumbfoundedly at Yuan Shui and the others as their clothes were torn apart by the attacks of the mechanical armored men. Among them, Yuan Shui's screams were about to break through the sky. Ling Yu looked at all of this in a daze, not knowing what was going on. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from beside her. Still not leaving? Do you want to watch a restricted performance here? Chapter 494. Luo Qingtong also added a little something for Yuan Shui and the others. At this time, the group of naked people were hugging each other. Luo Qingtong looked at this scene and felt her eyes burn. She immediately turned and left. Ling Yu also hurriedly followed. You did all of this? She was shocked. What does it have to do with me? Luo Qingtong glanced at her. They were chasing after you. Yuan Shui and the others were chasing after Ling Yu. Even if something happened, it was related to Ling Yu. What did it have to do with her? Ling Yu was speechless. So she was a professional scapegoat? But thinking about it, if being a scapegoat could make Yuan Shui so miserable, then being a scapegoat was fine. Thinking about how Yuan Shui wanted to use such a vicious method on her, but it was all returned to her by Luo Qingtong, Ling Yu felt proud and elated. At the same time, she had a good impression of Luo Qingtong and was curious about her. I didn't expect you to know how to use formations. She looked at Luo Qingtong, her eyes shining. Everyone said that 5th Prince Yuan Ma's fiancée's talent was average and that her strength wasn't outstanding. But now it seems that everyone was wrong. Just based on Luo Qingtong's ability to reverse the mechanism set by the mechanical armors, how could she be a useless idiot with no talent at all? Tianyu's imperial family was really blind. Especially Yuan Shui. He was so foolish that he couldn't be any more foolish. If she hadn't looked down on Luo Qingtong and was still thinking about how to deal with her, why would the latter help her and not her future sister-in-law? Thinking about the miserable scene Yuan Shui would face when they went out, Ling Yu felt a burst of joy. What was this called? The evils brought on by oneself were the hardest to bear. As the two spoke, they arrived at the location of the Thunder Wind Sword. Seeing the Thunder Wind Sword floating above the white jade platform, Ling Yu thought for a moment and took a step back. Go take it. Since you helped me, I won't fight with you over it. You can have this reward. In Ling Yu's view, Luo Qingtong's strength was definitely inferior to hers. Even if she was injured, it would be easy for her to snatch the sword. However, Luo Qingtong had helped her and she wasn't an ungrateful person. Without Luo Qingtong, she wouldn't even be standing here. She didn't even know how she would be humiliated by Yuan Shui. What kind of person would he be if he continued to snatch the reward? Ling Yu disdained to do such a thing and immediately asked Luo Qingtong to get it. The latter turned his head and looked at her with a faint smile. With Luo Qingtong's strength, there was no need for Ling Yu to yield to her. The reason why he didn't immediately take the Wind and Lightning Sword was because he wanted to see what Ling Yu would choose. If the other party was ungrateful and turned hostile, then Luo Qingtong would definitely teach her what it meant to be a good person. However, since the other party had asked her to take it, Luo Qingtong felt that she could give her another big gift. I just heard from Yuan Shui that Yuan Ma broke the record and received 3 rewards in a row. She looked at Ling Yu. That's right. When the latter heard her question, she was stunned for a moment and then nodded. However, she quickly came to her senses. Wait, don't tell me you're thinking of doing the same? Ling Yu looked at Luo Qingtong with a dumbfounded expression as she wandered around. Don't even think about it. The barrier between the passageways isn't that easy to find. Yuan Ma relied on half of his strength and half of his luck. Chapter 495. Wang. A door of light suddenly appeared in front of her. Damn, 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 damn. Ling Yu looked at the door of light in front of her and then at the other passageway behind it. Her eyes instantly widened. If she hadn't been taught etiquette since she was young, she would definitely have lost her composure. Oh my god! Luo Qingtong really found the nodes between the passageways. While Ling Yu was still in shock, Luo Qingtong had already picked up the Thunder Wind sword and looked at her. Together? She said as she extended her hand towards Ling Yu. Let's make it clear first. 9 weapons, take as many as you can. The weapons will be mine and the ranking will be yours. Is that okay? Luo Qingtong really didn't like Yu Wenma's name at the top of the school's historical tablet. Wasn't Yu Wenxue very proud of how outstanding her royal brother was in Tianyu branch? She even wanted to use Yu Wenma's privilege in the school's historical tablet to set her up. In that case, don't blame her for stepping on Yu Wenma. Number 1 prodigy in Tianyu branch? Chi. Luo Qingtong laughed coldly and disdainfully. As long as she was willing, Yu Wenma's title as number 1 prodigy in Tianyu branch wasn't even worth mentioning. However, Luo Qingtong didn't want to leave the lower class. Firstly, she wanted to learn inscriptions from Song Cheng. Secondly, she didn't like the teaching methods of the elite class. What one-on-one tutoring, correcting mistakes in cultivation methods and martial techniques. These might be useful to other students and were regarded as treasures. But to Luo Qingtong, who had eye techniques, it was completely useless. Were the teachers of the elite class able to comprehend martial techniques as fast as she could with her ocular technique? Luo Qingtong only wanted them to impart knowledge and didn't need any additional guidance. Therefore, she wasn't prepared to accept the glory of stepping on Yu Wenma. It didn't matter who stepped on Yu Wenma as long as she didn't see him hanging high above. She didn't know why they were so comfortable using the title of prodigy that the original owner's mother got. Luo Qingtong sneered. Ling Yu was still in a daze when she held Luo Qingtong's hand. She didn't expect Luo Qingtong to make such a suggestion. But the girl didn't seem to be joking. She then looked at the door of light that appeared in front of her. Ling Yu couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Perhaps, what Luo Qingtong said might really come true. Stepping on the number 1 genius Yu Wenma. Thinking about this possibility, Ling Yu's heart was filled with excitement. Okay. She held Luo Qingtong's hand tightly. While the two of them reached an agreement, in the outside world, on the plaza of the Tianyu branch. Ah! Yu Wenxue's shriek suddenly resounded through the sky. The moment Luo Qingtong took the wind and thunder sword, the entire passage closed. She and the top students were all ejected from the tunnel. The moment the group of people's consciousness returned to their bodies, their clothes were torn to shreds, revealing their shining white bodies. At the same time, ambiguous marks appeared on their bodies one after another. Those marks made it obvious what had happened inside. Especially Yu Wenxue, the marks on her body were densely packed. Who knew how many people doted on her? Seeing the ambiguous, drooling, or disdainful gazes of the people around her, Yu Wenxue screamed loudly and hugged her tattered clothes. Chapter 496. What exactly did Ling Yu do in the space of the historical tablet? Was she the one who controlled those ironwood armored soldiers? That B*TCH actually plotted against her. To think that she had pretended to be frightened and flustered. It was all a lie. Yu Wenxue was furious. As she scolded the people who were looking at her, she gritted her teeth and searched for Ling Yu's traces. Ling Yu's figure was nowhere to be seen among the top students. Luo Qingtong was nowhere to be seen. This meant that the two of them were still in the space of the historical tablet. However, Yu Wenxue knew that if they were ejected from the passageway, it meant that the weapon reward had already been obtained by someone else. Everyone inside, including the person who received the weapon as a reward, would be teleported out. How could Ling Yu not be out yet? This was impossible. Just as Yu Wenxue was thinking this, suddenly, buzz. The huge inscription on the tablet above the square suddenly emitted a strong light. Bang 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 bang. Another group of people was ejected from the space of the historical tablet. However, no one was paying attention to their sorry state. Everyone's eyes were gathered on the square, on the huge pure silver monument. Bang! A loud sound came from the high platform where the mentors were. The Tianyu branch headmaster stood up abruptly and knocked over the chair behind him. The historical tablet is glowing. He looked at the huge silver tablet that was emitting light in disbelief. His eyes and heart were filled with ecstasy. Good. Good. The Tianyu branch headmaster said the word good twice in a row. The surprise in his voice was almost overflowing. The mentors behind him were also overjoyed. The fact that the historical tablet was glowing meant that another student had broken through the barrier between the passageways and started to set a new ranking record. The last time the historical tablet glowed was when Yuanma was fighting for the weapon reward. At that time, the genius of the royal family broke through 3 passageways and took away 3 weapon rewards. No one knew which student would break through the barrier between the passageways this time and how many rewards they would receive. I think it should be 2, one of the mentors said with a smile. Even with Yuanma's strength and talent, he only received 3. Even if a student broke through the barrier this time, 2 should be the limit. Before this instructor could finish his words, another instructor's voice rang out. I don't think so. The space of the historical tablet only looks at one's strength and potential. What if that student has some unique talent in this area? I think it's possible for him to get 3. That's true. This mentor's words caused many others to agree. Back then, Yuanmo had been able to break through the barrier between the tunnels because of luck. If this student didn't rely on luck to break through the barrier, then it wasn't impossible for him to obtain 3 weapons as a reward. Tianyu branch headmaster. For hundreds of years, the Tianyu branch headmaster had produced such a stunning genius. He shone brightly in the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin. It would be extremely difficult for the other students of the Tianyu branch headmaster to surpass him, even if it was only the results of his consciousness. Once they surpassed him, it meant that they had the potential not to lose to Yuanma or even surpass him. But was that possible? Chapter 497. Ling Yu was stunned in the history tablet space. Luo Qingtong brought her through one tunnel after another. When they reached the place, she let her take the weapon as a reward. Ling Yu even suspected that she was holding a fire stick and not a prize for the first place. Wasn't Luo Qingtong too amazing? Ling Yu watched as she smoothly passed through one obstacle after another. The process was so smooth that it was as if she had done it thousands of times. Ling Yu even suspected that she had a map like Yuanxue. However, Yuanxue had the map because of Yuanma. Why did Luo Qingtong have it? With Tianyu's royal family and Yuanma's indifference towards her, she definitely wouldn't have a share of the map. So all of this was because of Luo Qingtong's strength? Oh my god! To be able to do this, how high was Luo Qingtong's talent and potential? That was why the history tablet gave her such preferential treatment. Oh my god! Ling Yu hugged the weapons, her entire body going numb. Tianyu's royal family actually disdained such a person and Yuanxue actually humiliated her. Was there something wrong with their brains? And it was a meteorite crater. Ling Yu watched in shock as Luo Qingtong threw the last weapon to her and said, "Remember, after we get out, these weapons are all mine." Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid that Ling Yu wouldn't take the weapons as a reward. Those who dared to take her things would end up in a miserable state. If Ling Yu wasn't afraid of death, she could try to eat Tun. However, she believed that Ling Yu was a smart person. Especially after seeing her strength. Buzz! When Luo Qingtong and Ling Yu took the last weapon, the pure silver monument shone brightly. The two of them were ejected from the space of the history tablet at the same time. Swish! 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 9 weapons all floated above Ling Yu's head. Everyone's eyes widened at the sight. 9 weapons. In other words, except for the last one, Ling Yu had taken all the weapons from the other passages. Such an achievement was simply unparalleled in both ancient and modern times. Since the establishment of the Tianyu Branch Academy, no. Since the establishment of the branch of the Holy Academy in the Empire of Qin, such a situation had never happened before. Ling Yu was going to defy the heavens. However, only Ling Yu knew that all of this was brought by Luo Qingtong. The young miss of the Luo family, who was despised by the imperial family of Tianyu and looked down upon by Yuan Mo, was the true creator of this miracle. And the last weapon she lacked was none other than the wind and thunder sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. In other words, as long as Luo Qingtong was willing, she could take the reward of 10 weapons at any time. No, she had already received the reward of 10 weapons. Ling Yu thought of the agreement she had with Luo Qingtong, which was that the weapon would be hers and the glory would be hers. Damn, the other party had pushed her out to be a professional scapegoat again. The corner of Ling Yu's lips twitched when she saw Yuan Shui looking at her with eyes that were about to spit fire. However, she liked this kind of scapegoat. She didn't know why Luo Qingtong had to hide her strength and stay in the trash class. However, it would be a waste to reject the benefits that came knocking on her door. Moreover, seeing Yuan Shui explode in anger but not being able to do anything to her made her feel exceptionally comfortable. Ling Yu had often been ridiculed by Yuan Shui because of Yuan Mo's strength. Now, the tables had finally turned. Buzz! When Ling Yu and Luo Qingtong appeared, the halo on the pure silver monument suddenly retracted. Chapter 498. Ling Yu, That's impossible. When this name formed and suppressed her royal brother's name, Yuan Shui, who had just put on her clothes in a fluster, cried out in disbelief. How could this be? Her brother was a rare genius in Tianyu's royal family. Even the instructors of the Empire of Qin's Saint Court praised him. They said that for a student like him to appear in the school, they really didn't know how they were able to accept it. As a heaven-grade student who entered the Empire of Qin's Saint Court, Yuan Mo's achievements in Tianyu school were enormous. But he was actually suppressed by someone. 9 weapons. How could Ling Yu achieve this? Could it be that her talent and potential were even greater than her brother's? That's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. Yuan Shui didn't want to believe it. But the truth was right in front of her eyes. She had no choice but to believe it. And Luo Qingtong actually also obtained a weapon. Wind and Thunder Sword. That weapon was actually the Wind and Thunder Sword. Ling Yu, that bitch, must have done it on purpose. She met Luo Qingtong in another passage and deliberately gave the weapon she wanted to Luo Qingtong to humiliate her. Not only Yuan Shui, but the top students who entered the Wind and Thunder Sword passage with her also thought so. Because they didn't see Luo Qingtong in the Wind and Thunder Sword passage. Ling Yu obtained a total of 9 weapons, but she didn't take the weapon that she had personally entered the Wind and Thunder Sword passage. Wasn't this obvious enough? Since the other party had the ability to obtain the other 9 weapons, but didn't take the Wind and Thunder Sword, it was obvious that she gave it to Luo Qingtong to humiliate Yuan Shui. With that thought in mind, Yuan Shui spat out a mouthful of blood and fell limply to the ground. She had been ejected from the very beginning and had appeared naked in front of all the teachers and students of the academy. Then, her own imperial brother had been suppressed, and Ling Yu, a woman who had been at odds with her since she was young, had suppressed her instead. Piece by piece, Yuan Shui's scheme against Ling Yu failed, but she was the one who got tricked instead. In the end, she even witnessed her glory, and even Luo Qingtong rose to the heavens with her. Seeing the two women she hated the most standing at the top of the limelight, Yu Wenshui couldn't stand the stimulation and fell to the ground with a bang. 7th Princess. The subordinates of Tianyu's royal family all rushed over. However, most people still focused their attention on Ling Yu, and Luo Qingtong. Right at this moment, buzz, the pure silver steel lit up again. A name appeared above Yu Wenma's name again, pushing Yu Wenma's name, which had been suppressed to second place, down again. Luo Qingtong. As that name appeared, everyone's eyes widened. Wow! Luo Qingtong's name actually appeared on the steel, and it's tied with Ling Yu, Oh my god! Ling Yu, couldn't have brought her through the passageway, right? Oh my god! If I had known that following Ling Yu, would bring me such benefits, would have followed her regardless. Why would I bother to snatch the reward myself? A group of students who didn't take sides were vexed. However, they didn't know that they had guessed the truth of the matter wrong from the start. The one who was really brought through the passageway was Ling Yu, and not Luo Qingtong. But who would have thought that a marquis's legitimate daughter from a small and inferior country would have such ability? Suppressing Yu Wenma, and even bringing along Ling Yu, Chapter 499. Luo Qingtong didn't expect such a scene to occur. She had asked Ling Yu, to take all the weapons. She didn't expect that she would have a share in the ranking. Was it because she had broken the barrier? No matter what, suppressing Yu Wenma was an unexpected gain. Plus, with Ling Yu, in front of her, no one would notice her. She could still stay in the lower class. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong was very satisfied. She had achieved all her goals. On the other side, Yu Wenshui, who had just woken up, saw Luo Qingtong's name on the pure silver monument. She instantly spat out another mouthful of blood. In a fit of anger, no matter how hard the others tried, they couldn't wake her up. They could only send her to the Pharmacist Academy to ask for help. The Tianyu imperial family was in a panic. Luo Qingtong leisurely appeared in the courtyard of Song Cheng's dormitory with the Wind and Thunder sword. I have completed the test you mentioned. She threw the Wind and Thunder sword to Song Cheng. Song Cheng caught it and nodded in satisfaction. Very good, very good. Although Song Cheng didn't go out, he had been paying attention to the situation outside. He had already known about Ling Yu, obtaining 9 weapons and suppressing Yu Wenma at the first moment. Naturally, he also knew that Luo Qingtong didn't obtain the Wind and Thunder sword by accident. No matter what method she used to obtain the Wind and Thunder sword, she had confirmed that the Wind and Thunder sword was an inscription tool. She had already passed his test. From tomorrow onwards, you don't have to go to the lower class. Come directly to my place to learn inscriptions. If you perform well, I will naturally give you pointers on the cultivation techniques and martial techniques you want to learn. Song Cheng waved his hand. However, Luo Qingtong didn't want to accept his teachings and directly rejected him. No, I still want to go to the lower class. As for inscriptions, I will come every night to teach you. Luo Qingtong didn't have any intention of sucking up to Song Cheng, a Sage Realm expert. Moreover, even if the other party was a Saint Stage expert, his understanding of martial skills and cultivation methods might not be able to match up to his eye technique. Luo Qingtong had too many secrets. She didn't want Song Cheng to pry on them. Fine, fine, fine. Do whatever you want. Song Cheng glared at Luo Qingtong. It was rare that he was willing to teach this girl cultivation, but she didn't appreciate it. She would cry in the future. However, Song Cheng did not know that he would be the one crying in the future. She was such a good disciple, yet he didn't pester her to get his hands on her. What a loss. After returning from Song City, Luo Qingtong was stopped by Ling Yu, and another young man with a calm temperament. I've heard that you've come to teacher Song Cheng's place, so I've been waiting here. Luo Qingtong, thank you so much. didn't you see Yuan Shui? She's about to die from anger. Ling Yu's laughter was like a silver bell, overflowing with joy. As she spoke, she pulled the calm young man beside her over. Let me introduce you. This is my elder brother, Ling Tianhan. When she mentioned Ling Tianhan, Ling Yu's expression was very proud. My elder brother is a genius who isn't any weaker than Yuan Mo. What a pity. But this time, my elder brother will definitely be able to enter the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. He has now returned to the top 10 of the genius rankings. Chapter 500. Luo Qingtong looked at the young and steady man. The latter's face was handsome and resolute, his figure was tall and straight, and his temperament was steady. His right hand seemed to have suffered a serious injury, and the muscles and bones of his wrist and forearm were all connected together. Even his meridians had completely dissolved and disappeared. Looking at the other party's hand, Luo Qingtong finally understood what Ling Yu meant when she said, "What a pity," and the sadness in her words. With such an injury, Ling Tianhan could still return to the top 10 of the genius list. This meant that his talent and tenacity were not something an ordinary person could compare to. It was a pity for such a person. If his hand was not crippled, Yuan Ma's light would probably not be so bright. Luo Qingtong knew from the original owner's memory that when Yuan Ma entered Tianyu Branch School, there was a genius in Tianyu Branch School who could rival him. In fact, he was even vaguely suppressing him. But in the end, something happened to that genius and he quickly fell silent. After that, Yuan Ma completely covered the sky and shone brightly. Now it seemed that this genius was Ling Yu's elder brother, Ling Tianhan. When Luo Qingtong looked over, Ling Tianhan nodded lightly at her. The man's expression was steady, and his temperament was firm. Even if one of his hands was crippled, he did not bother to hide it. Instead, he openly exposed it, without the slightest trace of inferiority. He nodded lightly at Luo Qingtong and thanked her in a deep voice. This time in the school's historical monument space, thank you very much. Duke Ling's mansion will definitely not let this matter slide so easily. Yuan Shui must pay the price. Even if she is the 7th princess of the imperial family. Everyone involved will also be punished. Junior Luo, is there anyone you don't like? As he spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong. If there is, you can give me a list. My Duke Ling's mansion will do our best. Was he hinting that she could use this opportunity to take revenge on those who followed Yuan Shui to deal with her? Luo Qingtong chuckled as she looked at the man in front of her. She felt that the Ling siblings were really a pair of wonderful people. Alright, I appreciate Senior Ling's kind intentions. I'll give you a list tomorrow. After entering the Tianyu Branch School, those who dared to bully her had already suffered the consequences of their own actions. Naturally, there was no need for Duke Ling's mansion to do anything. However, Luo Qingtong still remembered that in the memory of the original Luo Qingtong, there were many noble ladies who didn't have much strength, but their auras were very high. They followed her to humiliate the original Luo Qingtong. Those people were obviously not in the Tianyu Branch School. Now that Ling Tianhan offered to use the power of the Ling family to avenge her, Luo Qingtong would not refuse. Thus, he agreed to it without hesitation. After receiving her answer, Ling Tianhan nodded and left. Ling Yu followed Luo Qingtong all the way back to the dormitory. They chattered along the way. Sigh. Luo Qingtong, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. The Tianyu imperial family is really blind. I wonder what kind of expression they would have if they knew that you were the one who broke Yuan Ma's record and I was just a bystander. Ha! Luo Qingtong looked at her with a faint smile. You can go and tell them. See if they will believe it. The Tianyu imperial family was obstinate and self-opinionated. They had been looking down on the Luo family for a long time. How could they believe that she was the one who broke Yuan Ma's record? No matter what Ling Yu said, they would think that she was lying and deliberately pushing the blame onto Luo Qingtong to humiliate them. As long as the Ling family's people weren't crazy, they wouldn't go and tell the Tianyu imperial family. Otherwise, not only would they fail to please them, they would also be suspected. This was why Luo Qingtong didn't hesitate to show her strength in front of Ling Yu. Chapter 501. Ling Yu smiled embarrassedly and touched her nose. Why do you say the same thing as my elder brother? My elder brother also said that I can't tell anyone about it. He told me to keep it to myself and just pretend to be obedient. As Ling Yu spoke, she suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with a smile. Sigh, to be honest, why don't you consider my elder brother? You see, he's so compatible with you, and he's so calm. He's definitely different from you Wenma, who's just a playboy and doesn't have any sense of responsibility. Before she could finish her sentence, little Mingzun, who had been suppressing his anger, had already scurried out of Luo Qingtong's sleeve. She has a man. Looking at Ling Yu, Yi Qianxian said word by word. That cute little face was full of coldness at this moment. The aura around him was as cold as a blade. Luo Qingtong and Ling Yu were both stunned. The former was wondering why he came out of her sleeve and suddenly said such a sentence. The latter was looking at the cute little Mingzun with shining eyes. Huh, so cute. What's this? Luo Qingtong, is this a doll you made? As she spoke, she wanted to touch Yi Qianxian, but was pushed away by Luo Qingtong. This is mine. As she spoke, she took little Mingzun into her arms. Although little Mingzun was still emitting a strong coldness, he still obediently let her hold him in her arms. But that pair of cute big eyes still stared coldly at Ling Yu. Tisk, stingy. Seeing that Luo Qingtong protected little Mingzun so well, Ling Yu was drooling in her heart, but she couldn't do anything. If it was someone else, she might use her identity as the legitimate daughter of Duke Ling's mansion to force it. But if it was Luo Qingtong, forget it. She didn't even care about 7th Princess Yuanxue, and she was so powerful. She wasn't stupid enough to go against her. But, can't I just touch him? I don't want anything from you, she muttered. No, this belongs to me alone. Luo Qingtong looked at her with warning eyes. You'd better not touch him, or you'll have to bear the consequences. Good, good, good. I won't touch him, okay? You're the boss now. You have the final say. Ling Yu rolled her eyes as she spoke. Then, she joked, don't tell me that he was the one who said you had a man? This doll is quite interesting. When Ling Yu said this, Yi Qianxian's entire body stiffened. He let Luo Qingtong hug him and waited for Luo Qingtong's answer with all his concentration. Yes. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at Ling Yu. He is my little man, so you better not have any ideas about him. When Luo Qingtong's words fell, Yi Qianxian's violent and oppressive aura dissipated in an instant. He looked at the girl in front of him with a deep gaze. He felt that his heart had never been as lively as it was now. His heartbeat was beating like a drum, and he couldn't suppress it. This woman said that he was her man. Automatically ignoring the word little, Yi Qianxian's heart was full of joy. He even forgot that Ling Yu wanted to introduce her big brother to Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong didn't know that she had inadvertently appeased a man who was about to go berserk. After sending Ling Yu away, Luo Qingtong took Yi Qianxian back to the dormitory. Chapter 502. Boss. Little Tyrant Yuan shouted excitedly, this time, you've earned a lot in the competition for the first place. I don't know how many envious, jealous, and hateful words are spreading outside, saying that you're lucky to have caught Ling Yu's eye and be brought to the top by her. Little Tyrant Yuan curled his lips in disdain and said, those people just know how to talk. If they have the ability, they should also go and curry favor with Ling Yu. See if she's willing to bring them along. TSK. What's the use of just talking? But I really didn't expect that Ling Yu has such ability. I've never seen her so powerful before. Little Tyrant Yuan said while smacking his lips, clicking his tongue in wonder. Sima Ju, who had been silent on the side, raised his pair of midnight eyes and said, "It's not her. Ling Yu wasn't that powerful." He looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "Congratulations, boss." As soon as Sima Ju said this, Su Xiaoxiao and Little Tyrant Yuan instantly widened their eyes. Especially Su Xiaoxiao, she jumped up excitedly. "Really? Wow! Qingtong, you're too powerful." Since receiving Luo Qingtong's guidance, the innocent little rabbit Su Xiaoxiao had long regarded Luo Qingtong as a god. Hearing this, she didn't doubt it at all and jumped up happily. Little Tyrant Yuan, on the other hand, was stunned for a while before he reacted. He looked at Luo Qingtong and stammered, "Boss, it's you? It's not Ling Yu, Oh my god." Little Tyrant Yuan was shocked. If Ling Yu, was brought to the first place by Luo Qingtong, then how strong was Luo Qingtong? She jumped to the first place by herself, suppressing Yuan Ma, and could also bring Ling Yu along. Ah! If I had known that there would be such a good thing, I would have also fought for the first place. What a loss! The name would be recorded in the history of the Academy and be passed down through the ages. Unless someone could break the record set by Luo Qingtong and Ling Yu, in the future and obtain all 10 weapons, it would be impossible to suppress the two of them. In other words, Luo Qingtong's and Ling Yu's names would remain on the first row of the school's historical tablet. Ah! Little Overlord Yuan beat his feet and beat his chest inwardly, deeply annoyed that he had missed this opportunity. Back then, he felt that he was a piece of trash with no potential and was destined to enter the trash class. Therefore, he didn't take the entrance exam seriously and went home to sleep after casually fighting. Ah! What a huge loss. Boss, if there's an opportunity like this next time, you have to bring us along. You should know that we are your most loyal followers. He said shamelessly. Sure, Luo Qingtong looked at him and said with a lazy smile, "Do you want to be in the top 10 of the genius ranking in the year-end assessment?" Pfft! Little Tyrant Yuan almost spat out a mouthful of water when he heard this. Even the expressionless Sima Ju raised his head and looked at her with a pair of eyes that were as dark as midnight. Su Xiaoxiao blinked her eyes and froze. "Boss, you can't be serious, right? That's impossible." Little Tyrant Yuan recovered from his shock. Although he was mischievous, he still knew his limits. What was the top 10 of the genius ranking in the year-end assessment? It represented the opportunity to enter the holy court of the Empire of Qin. On that day, the competition in the Tianyu Academy would be extremely fierce. Many of the genius ranking students who were either in seclusion or out to gain experience would return to fight for the top 10. The ranking on the genius ranking actually didn't mean anything. Chapter 503. Why was Yuan Ma ranked so high on the Tianyu branch's historical tablet? That was because in his second year of school, he defeated the original number 1 on the genius ranking as a newcomer and successfully entered the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy after the year-end examination. He became one of the new heaven-grade students of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy. As a result, his ranking on the school's historical tablet was able to surpass everyone else and become number 1. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong helping Ling Yu obtain 9 weapons and breaking the record, she wouldn't have been able to surpass him. Now, Luo Qingtong actually wanted them to get into the top 10 of the year-end examination. This was even more unbelievable than the Arabian Nights. One had to know that there was less than half a year left before the year-end examination. Moreover, the year-end examination wasn't like other examinations. It was something that could only be challenged by oneself. Only by defeating the other party could one enter the top 10 of the genius ranking. Others couldn't help at all. Thinking of this, little Overlord Yuan instantly became listless. "Boss, don't make fun of us. This joke isn't funny at all." Luo Qingtong smiled but didn't say anything. Whether it was a joke or not, they would know in the future. Thinking of Shi Qingqing and Zhan Haopeng, who were in the top 10 of the genius ranking, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. She had always been a very vengeful person. These two people took advantage of the fact that she had just arrived at the Tianyu branch to kick her while she was down. Although it was to her liking, she was still unhappy. They didn't need to think about entering the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy in the year-end examination. Didn't they want to step on her? She would let them know who would step on who in the end. At the same time, in the land beyond the clouds. When a treasure appeared, everyone fought over it. At this moment, a silver-clothed black-haired figure walked over like he was treading on waves. In an instant, he passed by everyone and snatched the floating treasure. Ming Zun. Looking at the man who appeared in front of everyone and the people behind him wearing black field uniforms, the experts were slightly shocked. "Ming Zun, didn't you never participate in the snatching of treasures?" someone couldn't help but ask. This was the king of the black field. If he were to take action, most of the people in the land beyond the clouds would have to return in defeat. As they thought of this, everyone looked at Yi Qianren with eyes that were filled with hostility. "I am indeed not interested in such things." As Yi Qianxian spoke, he raised his hand and released the treasure he had snatched. It floated above his palm. "This treasure will belong to whoever tells me the whereabouts of the Grand Principal of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin." His gaze swept across the crowd. He didn't have the patience to slowly search for the whereabouts of the Grand Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Yi Qianxian's heart had been pounding ever since he knew that he would be able to find the woman's whereabouts soon. He wanted to be faster, faster, faster. He had to find that woman as soon as possible. She was the only woman who made him feel helpless in the past 20 years. She was the woman he loved and hated. For this reason, he didn't hesitate to break his rule of never fighting for these treasures. He just wanted to find the whereabouts of the Grand Dean of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin as soon as possible. "I know." At this moment, an expert said, "I saw the Grand Dean of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin heading in the northwest direction, where the 10,000 elephant dragon root appeared. I swear by the heavens and earth that I am not lying." Before he could finish his words, the treasure had already been thrown towards him. When he raised his head again, Yi Qianxian and the people from the black field were nowhere to be seen. Swoosh! Swoosh! Chapter 504. Tianyu Empire, Tianyu Branch Academy. After Luo Qingtong finished participating in the competition for the first-place prize, she started her daily life in the lower class, Song Cheng's instructor's dormitory, and her own dormitory. During the day, she would study all kinds of martial arts and knowledge related to this world in the lower class. At night, she would study inscription patterns in Song Cheng's courtyard dormitory. Although Song Cheng's temper was strange, he had studied inscription patterns for decades and had a solid foundation. However, he didn't have much talent. After so many years, he was still struggling at the entry level. Little Pig and Luo Qingtong felt that the inscription patterns he drew were extremely painful to the eyes. Especially Little Pig, who said without hesitation, "My God, I can draw better than him with pig trotters. This inscription master's talent is so poor, he's really amazing." Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She wondered what Song Cheng's expression would be if he knew that he was looked down upon by a pig. However, although Song Cheng's talent was poor, he still managed to study the entry-level knowledge. With his guidance and Luo Qingtong's own eye technique, Song Cheng was able to learn the inscription patterns. Soon, Luo Qingtong grasped the basic principles and usage of inscription patterns. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong raised her hand and drew an inscription pattern on the first floor of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. Every stroke of the lines on it seemed to resonate with the space of heaven and earth. Every stroke of the brush was just right. As Luo Qingtong's wrist turned, the last inscription pattern was completed and the inscription pattern connected. With a buzz, energy flowed into the inscription pattern. This time, the inscription pattern came to life. In an instant, a piece of space was clearly cut out and absorbed into the inscription pattern. Luo Qingtong quickly pressed the inscription pattern on top of a ring she had refined earlier. In an instant, a Sumeru spatial spiritual tool was formed. Of course, it was a fake Sumeru spatial spiritual tool. According to Little Pig, this was the lowest grade spatial storage artifact. A real Sumeru spatial spiritual tool could move mountains and fill seas. It could gather spirit springs and form a world of its own. A higher grade spatial spiritual tool could form a spatial blade that could cut and shatter everything. A powerful inscription master could look down on everything. His strength was not inferior to any powerful martial artist in this world. Otherwise, how could Tian Mingzi, as an inscription master, escape from the hands of his enemies? However, Luo Qingtong was still unable to reach Tian Mingzi's level. 10 square meters. Looking down at the spatial ring she had refined, Luo Qingtong nodded with satisfaction. To be able to refine a spatial ring with a space of 10 square meters on his first try was already pretty good. Within the true Spill continent, a spatial spirit artifact had nearly disappeared. Not to mention a spatial ring of 10 square meters, even a spatial ring of 1 square meter was enough to make many powerhouses scramble like ducks. Those who didn't have a Sumeru spatial spiritual tool. People like the royal family of Tianyu didn't even have the qualifications to own a spatial spirit tool. Bang! Luo Qingtong turned around and left the space of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. This space was opened when she won the first place of the freshman and advanced to the martial lord realm. The flow of time inside was 1 to 3. It was very suitable for cultivating and practicing inscription techniques. Luo Qingtong practiced in it when she had nothing to do. Chapter 505. Are you done refining? Little Pig impatiently jumped onto her shoulder and asked. Not bad, Luo Qingtong said as she threw the spatial ring she refined to Little Pig. 10 square meters, not bad. Oh my god. You call this not bad? You perverted woman. Little Pig caught the spatial ring and looked inside. His eyes instantly widened. 10 square meters. This was her first time refining, and she already had such a result. You call this not bad? Is this woman trying to ascend to the heavens? She should know that those inscription apprentices might not be able to refine a 1 square meter spatial ring even if they practiced for a year. Not to mention, the spatial ring refined by Luo Qingtong had an incomparably condensed space that could be expanded at any time. If it wasn't for her insufficient strength, she wouldn't have only refined a 10 square meter spatial ring. Pervert, a big pervert. Little Pig held the spatial ring and shook his head. Luo Qingtong, this woman, was born to crush people's confidence. The only one who could be on par with her and suppress her was the man beside her. Although the two of them were in different fields, they were both peerless monsters in their respective fields. Little Pig didn't even want to describe how monstrous this man was. Luo Qingtong actually didn't lose to him. Once the two of them complemented each other, it would be the nightmare of countless people. Just as Little Pig's lips were twitching, Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong with an indescribable pride. This was the woman he fancied. She was constantly giving him surprises. Alchemist, spiritual array master, inscription master. How many abilities did she have that she had yet to reveal? Come, let's go to Song City's dormitory. Luo Qingtong had already learned the 12 basic inscription patterns of the spatial inscription technique. She had also successfully refined a spatial ring. Now, she could start learning other inscription patterns. She was very interested in inscription patterns for weapons and inscription patterns for humans. The former could increase the strength of weapons and armors, and had all kinds of practical effects. The latter could even increase a cultivator's talent, making their already powerful strength even more powerful. It could be said that it was the dream of all martial artists. It was said that a powerful inscription master could transform a peerless trash into a peerless genius with a flip of his hand, and he didn't need to use any heavenly treasures. After all, in this world, treasures that could allow a cultivator to be reborn and even possess great talent were all divine medicines. These divine medicines were nurtured by the heavens and nurtured by the heavens and earth. It was rare for even one of them to appear in tens of thousands of years. But inscribers were different. As long as that powerful inscription master was willing to help, then it would only be a matter of time before the trash turned into a genius. The inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace that Tian Mingzi had left behind clearly pointed out this point. However, the Immortal Slayer Palace, a glorious inscriptionist lineage, had been destroyed. Who knew what kind of enemy they had provoked? However, it was definitely related to the divine tablet inscriptions. At that thought, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. No matter who they were, since she had inherited the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace, they were her enemies. It would be fine if the other party did not come to our door. If they did, she would have to clear the name of the Immortal Slayer Palace. At that time, she would definitely have to face the other party. Luo Qingtong was never willing to take a beating passively. Chapter 506. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong brought Little Pig and Yi Qianxian to Song Cheng's dormitory. The latter had already sensed Luo Qingtong's aura. When he saw the interspatial ring on her hand, his breath was stuck in his throat and he almost choked to death. You succeeded in refining it? He shouted in disbelief. Oh my God! When Luo Qingtong said she wanted to go back and refine an interspatial ring after learning the spatial inscription pattern technique, he thought she was joking. This stinky girl, he had studied for so many years and could only refine a few interspatial rings that were a few square meters in size. There were more failures than successes. How long had she been learning the inscription pattern technique? It had only been half a month, right? She actually wanted to refine an interspatial ring? She was simply daydreaming. Song Cheng had purposely waited here today to see her fail. He didn't expect that this girl, she actually succeeded. Song Cheng stared dumbfoundedly at the ring that was obviously freshly made. The lines of the inscription pattern on the ring were full and filled with energy. It was obvious that the ring was carved not long ago. He wanted to find a reason for Luo Qingtong to cheat, but he couldn't find a way. Her ability to refine an interspatial ring had completely surpassed his, okay? When he thought of those ugly interspatial rings that were only a few square meters in size, it was simply infuriating. He couldn't live like this anymore. He couldn't live like this. His disciple was so powerful. How many days had it been? His master had surpassed his master. Song Cheng couldn't feel happy at all, okay? How much of a scum was he? He had studied for dozens of years, but it couldn't compare to his disciple's 10 days of study. His research was simply going to the dog's stomach. Song Cheng looked at the interspatial ring that Luo Qingtong had successfully refined, and his heart was bleeding. Cough, not bad. It has some of my style. He stubbornly said. He raised his hand and quietly crushed the ugly interspatial ring that was 9 square meters in size that he had refined. What a joke. Was he looking for a blow by taking out this broken ring? Did he still want his dignity as a master? At this moment, Song Cheng seemed to have forgotten that Luo Qingtong was only learning inscription techniques from him and not becoming his disciple. However, even if he hadn't forgotten, Song Cheng would still shamelessly pretend that he didn't know. What a joke! Where could he find such a good disciple? In the future, he would have to rely on her to learn the inscription pattern technique. Song Cheng could see that Luo Qingtong's talent in inscription technique was much higher than his. Don't look at how she still needs to learn the basic principles of inscription technique from him. Once she completely grasps it, it will be time for him, her master, to seek guidance from her. Although this kind of disciple made people feel stifled, after all, they didn't get any sense of accomplishment from a master teaching a disciple. But glory! How shameless! Song Cheng thought of the bet that had caused him to stay in a small place like the Tianyu Branch Academy for so many years. Now, he finally had a chance to avenge himself. He was overjoyed. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was also indescribably amiable, completely different from his previous disdain. This kind of eccentric old man was like that. As long as it was to his liking, then everything was good. Song Cheng previously thought that Luo Qingtong was another student that came to make fun of him. Naturally, he didn't have a good impression of her. Chapter 507. Cough, cough. Disciple, come, let me test you. Take a look at this inscription pattern. What's wrong with it? Song Cheng humbly asked for advice. He had been studying inscription patterns for so long, but he had yet to refine a spatial ring larger than 10 square meters. He had to admit that it was really frustrating. His disciple had made a spatial ring larger than 10 square meters in one go. Song Cheng felt that he was already mentally strong to be able to stand here. Otherwise, he would have found a piece of tofu and killed himself. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a faint smile. Song Cheng's old face was about to turn red from her stare. All right, he said in a rough voice, tell me the answer. I'll take care of that instructor Chu who has a grudge with you. I guarantee that he won't find trouble with you. This way, when you go to the secret realm of Kaiyuan, it will save you some trouble. Secret realm of Kaiyuan? Luo Qingtong looked at him. She had never heard of it. Yes. Song Cheng said carelessly, it's the secret realm that your branch dean has been begging me to open. Oh. I promised him the day you came to me to become my disciple. I guess the preparation work is almost done now. In a few days, I'll inform you to go and gain experience. As he said that, he looked at Luo Qingtong and said, that place is specially for the students of the Holy Dynasty and the Empire of Qin's Holy Institute to gain experience. Although it's dangerous, the rewards are also very good. Girl, you're not weak. You can be considered a rare genius in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Going to gain experience there will be great benefits for you. Just be careful. As for that Yuan Ma and the Tianyu imperial family, don't worry about them. They look down on you. If I wasn't restricted by that stupid bet and couldn't reveal my identity, I would have already shown up and ordered them to break off the engagement with you. What the hell? Song Cheng snorted disdainfully. As a Saint Realm expert, he had seen countless young geniuses. Yuan Ma had been pretty good before, but compared to his precious disciple, he was nothing, okay? How dare someone from Tianyu's royal family complain about his disciple's low birth, lack of talent, and lack of strength? How could he be so shameless? Did they really think that Yuan Mo was some kind of peerless steamed bun that anyone would want to take a bite out of? His disciple didn't even like her. Only the royal family of Tianyu would shamelessly refuse to annul the engagement and still feel good about themselves. As Song Cheng thought about it, he felt extremely displeased. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded. I know. By the way, you said that Elder Chu has recovered? Yi Qianqian's soul fragment had destroyed Elder Chu's holy brush spirit in a fit of rage. He had also been severely injured and was on his last breath when he was brought back. Who would have thought that he would recover so quickly? Yeah, he's fine now. This trip to the Kai Yuan secret realm requires a few teachers to oversee it. He's a soul master and is very strong. The branch dean invited a heavenly alchemist from the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy to treat him. He's already alive and kicking. Song Cheng waved his hand nonchalantly. But you don't have to worry. He's just a small fry. I won't let him have the chance to affect your training. As for his disciple and that Shi Qingqing, your enemy, you have to be careful. Don't get plotted against inside. Song Cheng wouldn't let a Soul King expert like Elder Chu, who was also a teacher, cause trouble for Luo Qingtong in the Kai Yuan's secret realm. But Shi Qingqing and Zhan Haopeng were different. Chapter 508. N. Luo Qingtong nodded. Kai Yuan's secret realm? She naturally wouldn't miss out on such a good opportunity to train. As for Shi Qingqing and the others, she didn't even put them in her eyes. Luo Qingtong told Song Cheng about the flaws of his inscription pattern. The latter acted as if he had received a treasure and hurriedly ran off to experiment. Before he left Luo Qingtong a book that recorded the inscription pattern lines that he had researched all these years. He told her to slowly read it when she was free and not to disturb him during this period of time. Luo Qingtong was speechless. She took the book and went back. In the following period of time, Luo Qingtong studied inscription patterns when she had nothing to do. The book that Song Cheng gave her was quickly digested by her. One had to say that Song Cheng's learning was very scattered. The inscription lines that he studied were all messy. These were the drawbacks of not having a system and relying on self-study. However, it was extremely beneficial to Luo Qingtong. She just happened to want to learn weapon inscription patterns and human inscription patterns. And the book that Song Cheng gave her coincidentally had a lot of basic knowledge. After spending some time to familiarize herself with the inscription pattern lines, Luo Qingtong quickly grasped the basics of weapon inscription patterns and human inscription patterns. Wang. In the dormitory of the lower class, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and drew an inscription pattern that was similar to the human body's meridians. Take off the cloth that's wrapped around your body. Luo Qingtong looked at Sima Zhu, who was standing by the side. The latter immediately took off his clothes and took off the cloth that was wrapped around his body, revealing the pitch-black skin that was like ink. The black aura was moving around his body like a living thing, spreading in all directions. The air was filled with countless poisonous auras. Just by smelling these auras, it was enough to kill a martial artist the moment he stepped into this room. Shua. When the cloth that was wrapped around Sima Zhu's body fell off, the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong pointed at suddenly moved forward. With a schwa, the inscription pattern suddenly flickered with golden light and followed the meridians that Luo Qingtong drew for Sima Zhu, entering his limbs and bones. In an instant, the black aura around Sima Zhu's body crazily receded like a tide. Schwa schwa schwa. His entire body was as black as ink. With the inscription pattern as the center, it fiercely shrank. In an instant, the youth's limbs regained their white color. The youth's face, exquisite, gloomy face. His eyelashes as long and thick, his skin was as white as cream. Because he hadn't seen the sun for many years, Sima Zhu's skin was so white that there wasn't a trace of blood in it. At first glance, he looked like a wax figure, so exquisite and handsome that he didn't look like a mortal. Where are the living people? Little Overlord Yuan looked at all this in shock. Damn! If boss could make him like this with a mark, he would also be willing. Was this still the cowering Sima Zhu who looked as inconspicuous as a mouse? When did the cursed illegitimate child of the Sima family become so dazzling? Little tyrant Yuan stared with his eyes wide open. He jumped out almost the moment Sima Zhu's 10,000 poison body disappeared. Boss, give me a mark too. I want to become like this too. He shouted. Chapter 509. How is it? Throwing Yuan little tyrant to the side, Luo Qingtong looked at Sima Zhu and asked. Very good. The young man carefully touched everything in front of him. Sunlight, air, chair, nothing happened, and no poison gas seeped out, making the fresh and pleasant air worse. Sima Ju looked at his own hands, white and soft. Most importantly, there was no poison. This was the first time Sima Ju saw himself without any poison in his body, just like an air pollution source. "Boss, the poison in my body." He looked at Luo Qingtong. "It's been sealed up. It's inside this inscription pattern." This was Luo Qingtong's sudden thought. She didn't treat Sima Ju before, firstly because she felt that his 10,000 poison body wasn't mature enough, and there was still a chance for it to grow. Secondly, she wanted to use the inscription pattern to solve the danger of his 10,000 poison body. Now it seemed that she succeeded. According to the usual method of solving the 10,000 poison body, even if Sima Ju could control the poison in his body, he would carry the poison for life. But Sima Ju obviously didn't want the poison. But the 10,000 poison body was innate, and definitely couldn't be eradicated. Luo Qingtong could only help him control it, and couldn't help him get rid of it. She thought of using the inscription pattern to temporarily suppress all the poison. This way, when he needed it in the future, he could release it. This way, Sima Ju would be no different from an ordinary person. But when facing an enemy, the 10,000 poison body would be their nightmare. Killing two birds with one stone. "Thank you, boss." Sima Ju looked at the black-blue flower pattern on his wrist, and his heart was indescribably excited. Swish! Following the movement of his mind, a layer of black instantly pervaded his entire body. But this color was controlled by Sima Ju. Sima Ju could freely control whether the poison in his body was completely released, or only half released. Looking at his wrist that had turned completely black, while the other parts were still white. Sima Ju's eyes were filled with shining light. With this method to control the poison in his body, when he faced an enemy in the future, it would be even harder to guard against. No one knew which part of his body would suddenly be poisoned. And no one knew when he would suddenly be poisoned. This was much better than the 10,000 poisons body that was exposed and made people wary. As long as Sima Ju was willing, no one would know that he had the 10,000 poison body. His opponents might not even know how they died. Just as Sima Ju was happily adapting to his new body, Yuan Little Tyrant was already stunned. Ah, too treacherous. Sima Ju is simply a killer weapon. In the past, Sima Ju was a thorny ball that would bring bad luck to anyone who touched him. But at least he had a mark. Everyone looked at him and knew that he wouldn't recklessly crash into them. But the current Sima Ju had isolated himself from the poison. You wouldn't even know when he would kill you. Little Overlord Yuan felt that he had been deeply hurt. Boss. Boss. I'm also your little brother. You can't favor one over the other. Tell me, how should I transform my body? Ah, I'll listen to you. You can say you don't want a little dick. Only Yuan Hu could say such shameless words. However, Luo Qingtong had indeed modified him. Yuan Hu's petrification soul seal was called a trash soul seal. Chapter 5:10. A piece of rock can be easily destroyed, but what about a tall mountain? A large piece of land? When the soil solidifies, it will turn into stone. When weathered, it will turn into sand. When it comes into contact with water, it will turn into a swamp. You have to make yourself able to be tough, soft, and trapped. If the opponent can use 100% of his strength to defeat you, then don't let him use 100% of his strength. Luo Qingtong's words enlightened Yuan Little Tyrant greatly. He always knew how to recklessly resist. He never thought that he could dodge or evade. In his opinion, if he escaped, wouldn't he be letting down his petrification soul imprint and innate divine strength? Luo Qingtong's words opened up a whole new line of thought for him. And Luo Qingtong also continued to study the weapon inscriptions needed for guns. Once she succeeds, the Luo clan's strength will rapidly increase. Just as Luo Qingtong was focused on studying, the Kai Yuan secret realm opened. Wang. The group was brought to a mountain valley not far from Tianyu imperial capital. There, the entrance to the Kai Yuan secret realm opened. A huge door of light stood in mid-air. Through that light door, they could enter the Kai Yuan secret realm. The Kai Yuan secret realm is full of danger. Students who are not strong enough, it's best not to leave the teacher's team and trespass. In addition, the place you enter at the beginning is the border area. You can form your own team to train inside. Remember not to go too deep. The Kai Yuan secret realm will automatically open in half a month. At that time, return to your place and wait for the teleportation. We will not wait for you if you're late. As the precautions were read out, Luo Qingtong and the rest disappeared into the light door. Swish. As the surroundings changed, Luo Qingtong found that they were already in the Kai Yuan secret realm. Around them was a vast plain that stretched for who knows how many miles. Yellow sand was everywhere. This should be the so-called border area of the Kai Yuan secret realm. This was the place where they were training. Tianyu branch naturally wouldn't let these students die in vain. This place that Song Cheng helped to open was the least dangerous place in the Kai Yuan secret realm. It was suitable for them to train. As for those who felt that this place wasn't enough and wanted to train elsewhere, it would depend on their own strength. Bang! Luo Qingtong and the others had just gone out when a huge centipede suddenly rushed out from under the yellow sand and attacked the team of students at the front. Ah! Seeing the Class 6 centipede charging out of the yellow sand, the group of students instantly cried out in alarm. The level 6 centipede beast was nearly 100 meters long. It was equivalent to a martial lord realm expert. When it rushed out, it formed a huge force. Get out of the way. The instructors who had entered the Kai Yuan mystic realm hurriedly attacked and killed the centipede beast. Encountering such a situation as soon as they entered made the students of Tianyu branch realize how dangerous this place was. And this was only the border of the Kai Yuan mystic realm. He wondered what it would be like when he went deeper into the core area. Shua. Just as Luo Qingtong and the others entered the Kai Yuan secret realm, light gates were rapidly forming in other places of the Kai Yuan secret realm. That was the scene of the other forces entering the Kai Yuan mystic realm to train. Junior sister, let's go. At the place where the team of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was, Yuanma, dressed in green, stood with a group of elite disciples of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. They rushed into the depths of the Kai Yuan mystic realm. Chapter 5:11. Are you sure this Luo Qi is evil, Dr. Gui Tong? Looking at the portrait of the youth in front of him, Tianyu Emperor's eyes widened. If it weren't for the fact that he was holding onto the dragon table's armrest, he would have fallen off the dragon throne. My God! This fact was simply too horrifying. Luo Qi was actually evil, Dr. Gui Tong. And this Luo Qi, Tianyu Emperor couldn't help but look at the portrait in front of him again. His forehead was covered in sweat, he couldn't tell if it was from fear or panic. Luo Qingtong. This portrait was Luo Qingtong's portrait. Although she was in men's clothing, Tianyu Emperor had a very deep impression of this future daughter-in-law that he was very dissatisfied with. The person who painted the painting used a skillful brush to portray the charm of Luo Qingtong, who was also Luo Qi, to the fullest. This Luo Qi was clearly Luo Qingtong. Tianyu Emperor felt a wave of dizziness. He'd heard that Blackfield's people were looking for evil Dr. Gui Tong. But at that time, evil Dr. Gui Tong didn't have a portrait. Later on, Yi Qianxian drew a portrait of Luo Qi and had people look for her. But because everything was done in secret, this portrait wasn't circulated around the Blackfield. Tianyu Emperor had no way of knowing. This time, he got this portrait of Luo Qi because he didn't know how he'd offended evil Dr. Gui Tong, causing her to declare that she wouldn't accept any orders from Tianyu's royal family. He wanted to find the reason and resolve this conflict. But he didn't expect to find this portrait. If Luo Qi was evil Dr. Gui Tong, then didn't that mean Luo Qingtong was evil Dr. Gui Tong? My God! No wonder she had such a big grudge with Tianyu's royal family. Apart from Tianyu's royal family's orders, she'd accept all other orders. No wonder evil Dr. Gui Tong would wipe out the Fei family in one night. Even House Yen Yu and Blackfield would support her, forbidding them from taking revenge. If Luo Qingtong was evil Dr. Gui Tong, then everything made sense. The royal family's neglect and bullying of the Luo family these years, and Yuan Shui's bullying of Luo Qingtong, almost taking her life. Emperor Tianyu couldn't help but break out in cold sweat whenever he thought about it. With such a deep grudge, Luo Qingtong didn't skin Tianyu's because she was still of age. He was still worried about the Luo clan. Emperor Tianyu was a cunning old fox. He knew what Luo Qingtong was worried about. Quick! Go ask the ancestors to come out. I have something to discuss with them. Of course, Tianyu, of Tianyu's, He's of S. Outside the hall, the Tianyu Empress, who had come to pay her respects, heard the commotion and hurriedly rushed in. Your Majesty, what happened to you? You still have the nerve to say that? It's all because of you. Seeing her come in, Emperor Tianyu was furious. Originally, he didn't want to see Luo Qingtong, his future daughter-in-law, and she wouldn't cause any trouble. But it was this woman's good daughter who offended Luo Qingtong so much. Not only that, she even sent the verdant tiger guards and Fiji to wipe out the Luo family behind his back, causing Luo Qingtong to have a death grudge. Otherwise, with evil Dr. Gui Tong's identity, how could Tianyu's royal family be free and unfettered? She's the apple of the holy dynasty's eye, someone the Blackfield would do anything to protect. Chapter 5:12. Emperor Tianyu thought. He didn't know where he got the strength from, but he stood up and kicked the Empress, sending her flying a dozen meters away. She was caught off guard and almost couldn't get up. Your Majesty, what did I do wrong? The Empress of Tianyu knocked her head on a nearby ornament and started bleeding. She looked at Emperor Tianyu in a daze, not knowing why she was treated like this. What did you do wrong? You still have the face to ask? Look at what this is. Emperor Tianyu said and threw the portrait of Luo Qi in front of Empress Tianyu. Do you recognize what this is? He gritted his teeth and looked at her. Isn't this Luo Qingtong's portrait? The Empress looked at the portrait. She naturally recognized Luo Qingtong, but why did His Majesty draw her as a man? The Empress still didn't understand. Huh. Luo Qingtong's portrait. Emperor Tianyu said and then flipped the table in front of him. This came from Blackfield, it's Luo Qi's portrait. And this Luo Qi is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye that Blackfield has been looking for. Now do you know what you did wrong? Emperor Tianyu stared at her with bulging eyes. He looked like he wanted to eat her alive. Do you know why evil Dr. Ghost Eye wants to destroy your Fei family? Because she is Luo Qingtong. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye is Luo Qingtong. You bitch, you've caused a disaster for our imperial family. Empress Tianyu's eyes widened when she heard this. What? She looked at the portrait in front of her with a shocked expression. In an instant, it was as if she had been burned by fire. She suddenly threw the portrait to the ground. Impossible. How can Luo Qingtong be evil Dr. Ghost Eye? She's just a daughter of a marquis, how can she have that kind of ability? Her mother was also long gone. Tianyu's Empress stopped abruptly at this point. That's right. Luo Qingtong's mother was no longer around, but her medical skills were most likely passed down. Otherwise, where did Luo Qingtong get this kind of ability? But why didn't Luo Qingtong reveal it all these years? If she knew Luo Qi's talent was on par with her mother's, she wouldn't have treated her like this. She even caused the destruction of the Fei family. Thinking of this, hatred rose in Empress Tianyu's heart. Your Majesty, I think Luo Qingtong has long wanted to attack the royal family of Tianyu. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hidden his talent from us for so many years and pretended to be bullied by us. She said fiercely, since we've already formed a grudge with her, we might as well go all the way and control her and the entire Luo family in our hands and make her work for us. The Empress of Tianyu's expression was abnormally sinister. Right now, no one knows she's evil Dr. Ghost Eye and she's the rightful daughter-in-law of our imperial family. We'll use marriage as an excuse to force her to submit. Let's control that old fart from the Luo family first, we'll see what she can do. At that time, everything she has will be ours. That's right. Chapter 5:13. An elder helped the Tianyu Empress up. Empress is right. Luo Qingtong has betrayed us. She came to our Tianyu imperial family to break off the engagement. Now that she has the identity of evil Dr. Gui Tong, she won't put us in her eyes. That elder snorted, since she has an engagement with our imperial family, she will be a member of our imperial family in life and a ghost in death. This marriage must be carried out to the end. Not only that, everything she has, including everything she gave to the Luo family, will belong to our imperial family. That's right. Another elder's eyes flashed with greed. Evil Dr. Gui Tong's identity is no small matter. Since we have a grudge against her, we can't let her go. Fortunately, no one knows who she is now. Even the Dark Domain and the other major forces of the Holy Dynasty don't know. Luo Qingtong has hidden herself so well. She has benefited the royal family and is also a great opportunity for our Tianyu Empire. If we can control her, our empire will become a faction of the Holy Dynasty in the future. It will be easy for us to become a county. We may even reach a higher status. You know, she is an alchemist. And Luo Qingtong's medical skills have already surpassed her mother's. The elders said coldly. They already saw Luo Qingtong as a fish on the chopping board, ready to be slaughtered. Amidst the discussion, Emperor of Tianyu's chaotic thoughts slowly cleared up. According to the uncles, you want to control Luo Qingtong completely? He looked at the crowd and asked slowly. That's right. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. No one knows her identity, only we have seen through it. Your Majesty, there is a saying, if the heavens want to give, they must take. Otherwise, there will be trouble. Luo Qingtong's identity has been seen through by us. This is a gift from the heavens to our imperial family. One of the elders laughed. That's right. No one knows her identity, so it's convenient for us to act. Another royal family elder looked at Emperor Tianyu and said. Otherwise, with evil Dr. Ghost Eye's identity, once Luo Qingtong decides not to hide anymore, it will be a disaster for the royal family of Tianyu. What did it mean to be a highly sought-after alchemist in the Black Field and the Holy Dynasty? This meant that Luo Qingtong could destroy Tianyu's royal family with just one word. As the saying goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Luo Qingtong didn't want to be the object of everyone's covetous eyes, so she tried to hide her identity. But what if one day she didn't want to hide anymore? If that was the case, then with the other party's medical skills and strength, Tianyu's royal family would be no match for him. Not to mention anything else, just the existence of the Black Field was enough to completely erase Tianyu's royal family from the map of True Spill Continent. And the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin wouldn't even ask about it. What kind of cruel reality was this? This also made Emperor Tianyu realize that besides controlling Luo Qingtong, there was no other way. From the very beginning, their engagement with Luo Qingtong was a dead knot. The only way was to let go of their engagement with Luo Qingtong, and then bow their heads to make up for the debt they owed to the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. But even then, they might not be able to obtain Luo Qingtong's complete forgiveness. Moreover, how could this compare to the freedom of having Luo Qingtong in their hands? That should be the glory of their royal family. Good. Emperor Tianyu slowly nodded. Chapter 5:14. At the same time, in the land beyond the clouds. In the northwest, where the all-creation's dragon root was born. Buzz. As the ball of light in the center suddenly broke out of the ground, the masters who had been waiting for a long time flew out and rushed towards the ball of light. Swish. 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 A group of people suddenly walked over from afar. Boom. As the man at the front waved his sleeves, the surrounding air suddenly cracked and rippled. Ming Zun. Looking at the figure that appeared, the surrounding experts were all on high alert. Ming Zun, you have never participated in the fight for treasures. Why are you making an exception this time? The silver-robed, black-haired figure that appeared in front of them was like an indomitable spirit. The dark golden mask covered the man's handsome face that was like a celestial being's. The domineering aura that emanated from his body seemed to be able to split heaven and earth. That terrifying aura was enough to intimidate the experts who were fighting for the all-creation's dragon root. It was a kind of aura that was blessed by nature and supreme. I have no intention of fighting with you. I just want to borrow the holy brush of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. As Yi Qianxian spoke, his gaze passed over the all-creation's dragon root and looked at the elder in red who was holding the huge holy brush. The elder was the one that Luo Qingtong had seen in the Blackfield sub-city. He was the one who had given her the purple recommendation card for the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. When he heard that Yi Qianxian wanted to borrow his holy brush, he immediately laughed out loud. Sure. Ming Zun, I gladly agree to lend it to you. However, Ming Zun, please help me obtain the all-creation's dragon root. My old bones can't withstand the torture of illness, the elder in red said with a smile. Yi Qianxian didn't say anything. He just swept his gaze across the crowd. Did you all hear what he said? This all-creation's dragon root, I want to obtain it. As he spoke, he suddenly waved his sleeves. Boom boom boom. When the word take was spoken, Yi Qianxian's voice caused the air to explode. The ball of light that enveloped the all-encompassing dragon root, along with the countless experts' divine senses and powers attached to the ball of light, exploded. Shwa. Yi Qianren raised his hand and caught the 10,000 elephant dragon root firmly in his hand. At the same time, the experts who were competing with him for the all-mammoth dragon root were sent flying while vomiting blood. Their eyes were filled with horror as they looked at him. It was said that there was a problem with Ming Zun's strength, and that he could only display 30 to 40% of his full strength. Who would have thought that he was still so powerful? It was simply terrifying. The group of experts failed in the competition and left one after another. Yi Qianxian took the 10,000 elephant dragon root and walked to the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Find the whereabouts of this qi. He avoided the Grand Dean's hand that was about to take the 10,000 elephant dragon root, and released the qi of the holy brush spirit that Elder Chu had released. It's the qi of the holy brush spirit released by the Holy Academy. Which idiot offended you? Or did he offend that evil Dr. Kid? The Grand Dean looked at the qi in amazement. By the way, I left a purple recommendation letter for that kid. She should have gone to enroll in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, right? The Grand Dean asked cheerfully as he investigated. Yi Qianxian looked at him with indifference. Enroll? She had indeed gone. However, it was not that woman who went, but her big, silly subordinate. However, Yi Qianxian would not tell him about this. The man nodded lightly. The Grand Supreme Dean was overjoyed. Soon, he found the source of the aura. Yes, it's the chi of a tutor surnamed Chu from the Tianyu Empire branch, he said while stroking his beard. Chu, Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. Tianyu branch. That woman's identity seemed to be on the verge of being revealed. Chapter 5:15. Bam! Luo Qingtong had just entered the Kaiyuan mystic realm and was about to leave with little Overlord Yuan and the others when she suddenly felt her body sinking as if she had fallen into a black hole. It's a space-time trap. When opening a mystic realm, the space is unstable, and it's most likely to appear. But why are you the only one who fell in? This is a trap. It should be man-made. Little Nether Venerable and Little Pig crawled out from her sleeve. Humph. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She recalled that when she was about to meet up with little Overlord Yuan and the others, she was stopped by Shi Qingqing and the others for no reason. Shi Qingqing was all smiles and said that she came to say goodbye to her and told her to be careful in the mystic realm. She must have deliberately squeezed her into this trap at that time. Hold me tight. The surroundings were turned upside down. Luo Qingtong was not at ease with them staying in her sleeve. She hugged Yi Qianxian with one hand and Little Pig with the other. The latter used its little hooves to grip her clothes tightly, and in a burst of "Ao Ao Ao," it fell to the ground with her with a thud. Where is this? Looking at the fiery surroundings, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't know. Little Pig groaned and got up from the ground. It had never been to such a training ground, so how could it know where it was? But looking at the situation, this should be the deeper part of the Kaiyuan mystic realm. It groaned and said, since those people have bad intentions towards you, this must be a dangerous place in the Kaiyuan mystic realm. Or a very dangerous place. Little Pig had just finished speaking. Roar. A fiery red phantom aura suddenly rose from the surroundings. The phantom was blurry, and it was hard to tell what kind of monster it was. However, it had sharp teeth and thorns all over its body. The breath it exhaled was hot and sharp like a knife. Puff! It exhaled at Luo Qingtong, and the surrounding space was instantly cut into pieces by countless sharp blades. Rip! Luo Qingtong leaped and dodged the attack with little Ming Zun in her arms. Her shoulder was cut by the hot air and the saber wind. The attack of a middle-level martial king. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. She raised her hand and summoned the life and death yin-yang sword. With a swoosh, the roaring flame cut was unleashed. The fiery red monster was split into two halves. Hiss! Bursts of aura burst forth from the fiery red monster and quickly condensed into a crystal in the air that exuded a powerful aura. Is it soul power? Luo Qingtong looked at the crystal on the ground and picked it up with Yi Qianxian in her arms. She tossed it in her hand and found that the soul power in this crystal was very gentle and nourishing. It also had the effect of purifying one's soul and innate talent. There was still a little bit of spirituality left in that soul power. Could it be the consciousness that was derived from that fiery red shadow? If that's the case, these crystals are good stuff. Soul power was the easiest to be contaminated, even if it was absorbed and transformed by the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood. However, the power of these crystals was very gentle and easy to absorb. It was very beneficial for warriors and soul cultivators. It seems that this should be the depths of the Kaiyuan mystic realm, where the elites of the big forces come to train. Luo Qingtong thought as she put away the crystal. Chapter 5:16. Yuan-mo, you people from the Empire of Qin's holy court, don't go overboard. Everyone who saw the Yang Soul Stone should have a share. What right do you people from the Empire of Qin's holy court have to monopolize it? You even dare to stab me in the back. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes when she heard that voice. She peeked out from behind the rock she was hiding behind to take a look. She saw two groups of people confronting each other in an open space not far from her. The group of people with their backs facing Luo Qingtong wore silver-gray robes. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly. But the group facing Luo Qingtong was none other than Yu Wenmo's group, whom Luo Qingtong had met before. They were even old acquaintances. Luo Qingtong looked at the girl in a yellow robe beside Yu Wenmo. Her face was covered with a light-colored veil, but the left side of her face could still be seen. Her lips curved slightly. Wasn't this Yu Wenmo's junior sister? Her face hadn't healed yet? That's right. How could the human face blister formed by the yin energy of the 1,000-year soul guiding would be so easy to heal? As for the people beside Yu Wenmo, they weren't any different from the ones she had seen in the Blackfield city. It seemed like they had already been subdued by him. It was truly a small world for enemies. She didn't expect to meet them again in the Kai Yuan secret realm. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. Humph. Based on the fact that we were the ones who obtained the Yang Soul Stone, it should belong to us. That yellow-robed girl said confidently. The rules of the Yin-Yang Soul Mountain are as such. The Yang Soul Stone belongs to whoever obtained it. What's wrong with us taking what we should have? Mu Ruyu, you have the nerve to say that? The leading youth that was confronting her sneered. We were the ones who surrounded that Yang Soul King beast first. What right do you have to fight it? And what right do you have to take that Yang Soul Stone? Even if we, the Four Seas Court, don't get anything in the end, it's not up to you to interfere. That Yang Soul King beast was the one who attacked me. You didn't take good care of your own prey and you're blaming me? Mu Ruyu sneered. Don't talk about that Yang Soul Stone. Even if I don't want it, I won't give it to you. The atmosphere between the two sides instantly became extremely tense. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the crystal in Mu Ruyu's hand. The Soul Stone that Yu Ruyu was the Soul Stone? Yu Ruyu Yue's Ru have a Soul King beast, S Ruyu. Yu Ruyu's use. Bang! Use. Luo Qingtong Mu Ruyu's eyes moved slightly. The instant the huge rock shattered, she tore off a corner of her robe and used it to cover her face. She then rolled out of the range of the huge rock. Bang! Luo Qingtong Mu Ruyu made her move and killed that Yang Soul King beast. She then collected the Yang Soul Stone that had fallen. Who is it? Hearing the commotion, the two sides who were at loggerheads instantly looked over. Miss, it's you? Seeing Luo Qingtong roll out from behind the rock, Yu Wenmo was slightly stunned. A trace of clear surprise flashed in his eyes. Mu Ruyu immediately yelled. Chapter 5:17. When Mu Ruyu saw Luo Qingtong, she hated that she couldn't eat her alive. Mu Ruyu still hadn't recovered from the poison she had put on her face previously. She still dared to appear before her? Mu Ruyu raised her hand to attack Luo Qingtong, but the latter easily dodged her attack. The people of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy are still so unreasonable. They like to snatch other people's things. Luo Qingtong said coldly as she put away the Yang Soul Stone in her hand. She was referring to how Mu Ruyu wanted to snatch the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood from her. But in the eyes of the crowd, it was Mu Ruyu who wanted to snatch her Yang Soul Stone. When they thought about how Mu Ruyu had previously snatched their Yang Soul Stone, the people of the Four Seas Pavilion instantly despised her. They looked at Mu Ruyu and said coldly, "Yo, instead of snatching in the dark this time, you want to snatch openly? Can the people of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy be so shameless?" The leading youth of the Four Seas Pavilion directly said to Luo Qingtong, "Lady, come over to our side. I want to see if the people of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy dare to kill us and snatch our treasures." Since both sides had the same enemy, they instantly became enemies and forgot to ask about Luo Qingtong's background. Those who could enter this secret realm were either geniuses from the various large powers of the Sacred Empire or students of the Sacred Academy's main school. It didn't matter which school she was from, but the most important thing was that she had a grudge against Mu Ruyu. Luo Qingtong smiled in response as she walked over. "Bitch!" Mu Ruyu gritted her teeth as she looked at her. She then glared at the leading youth of the Four Seas Pavilion and said, "Gong Xinghai, are you determined to go against us? Yo! Look at what you're saying. How are we going against you? Don't you, Miss Mu, rely on the fact that you have a pair of good parents to go against others everywhere? Why? Since you can't snatch it, are you trying to threaten us?" The Four Seas Pavilion disciple called Gong Xinghai mocked. "Unfortunately, we are not students of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. We won't fall for your tricks." When Luo Qingtong heard those people insulting Mu Ruyu, her lips curled up slightly. "Bitch!" At this moment, Mu Ruyu turned her head to look at her. When she saw the smile on her face, she instantly scolded her with a vicious expression. Her beautiful face also looked like a malicious ghost. Yi Qianxian, who was in Luo Qingtong's embrace, had a cold expression on his face. He looked at Mu Ruyu with an indescribably cold gaze through his half-mask. Mu Ruyu, right? He remembered her. Luo Qingtong's expression was also very cold. Her 5 fingers moved slightly. Right at this moment, screech! A sharp cry suddenly came from afar. "Sun Soul Emperor Beast!" Hearing this cry, everyone's face instantly lit up with joy. Brother Gong. Yuan Mo, who was originally looking at Luo Qingtong, turned to Gong Xinghai and said, "My junior sister was in the wrong this time. I apologize on her behalf. The Sun Soul Emperor Beast has appeared. Both of us aren't its match. How about we work together to kill it? You must return that Yang Soul Stone as well." Gong Xinghai's heart was also moved, but he didn't relent. "All right." Yuan Mo looked at Mu Ruyu as he said that. "Junior sister, hand over the Yang Soul Stone." "Senior brother." Mu Ruyu gritted her teeth and stomped her feet. In the end, she still tossed the Yang Soul Stone to Gong Xinghai. "For you," she said in a fit of pique. Chapter 518. He naturally said that to annoy Luo Qingtong, but it was also because he felt a trace of the Sun Soul King Beast's aura when she charged out from behind the huge rock. Luo Qingtong's movements were too fast that he didn't see it clearly at that time. Moreover, these Sun Soul Beasts didn't have a physical body and were extremely hard to sense. He just had his suspicions. If she could really kill a Sun Soul King Beast so easily, then bringing her along would naturally save them a lot of trouble when dealing with the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. After all, the Sun Soul Emperor Beast was already a Spirit Emperor expert. It wasn't something they could easily kill. They had to team up in order to kill that Sun Soul King Beast just now. A person who could travel alone in the Yin Yang Soul Mountain was naturally someone worth befriending. Otherwise, why would Gong Xinghai be so kind as to go against Mu Ruyu for a girl that suddenly appeared out of nowhere? Even though it was to annoy the other party, that person had to be strong enough. All right. Luo Qingtong nodded and clenched her fist. She withdrew the few strands of energy that were originally ready to be unleashed. Her gaze swept past the human-faced ghost boils on the left side of Mu Ruyu's face. With a smile, she said, "Let's go together." Humph. Pretentious. Mu Ruyu looked at Luo Qingtong with hatred in her heart. The ghastly boils on her face were caused by this girl. The Four Seas Pavilion actually wanted to bring her along. What can she do by herself? Gong Xinghai, since you insist on bringing her along, then for the Yang Soul Imperial Stone that we hunt later, her share will be provided by your Four Seas Court. Once she said that, the expressions of the Four Seas Pavilion members instantly changed. Mu Ruyu's words were really too overbearing. If the other party contributed to killing the Sun Soul Emperor beast together, why should the Four Seas Pavilion only contribute? Junior sister. Yuan Mo couldn't help but speak up when he saw the atmosphere between the two sides becoming tense again. Senior brother, don't say anything. Either they abandon this girl, or the Four Seas Pavilion will take full responsibility. Otherwise, any random person can come and take a share of the loot. What does the Four Seas Pavilion think of the Empire of Qin Holy Academy? Mu Ruyu said with disdain. Good. Gong Xinghai was also angered by her words. This young lady's share will come from our Four Seas court. Mu Ruyu, don't think we can't afford it. He looked at Luo Qingtong and asked, Miss, what's your name? Luo Qi. Good. Miss Luo Qi, you will follow our Four Seas Pavilion later. Gong Xinghai said. All right. Luo Qingtong's lips curved slightly. Since I'm following the Four Seas court, then the Yang Soul Stone that I hunt later won't belong to the Holy Court of the Empire of Qin, right? She looked at Mu Ruyu and the others as she said that. Of course not, Gong Xinghai said firmly. The elites of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy are rich and overbearing. They wouldn't care about our measly Yang Soul stones. As he said that, he tossed the Yang Soul stone that he had just obtained from Mu Ruyu with a mocking expression. Luo Qingtong looked at Mu Ruyu's ashen face and suddenly felt that the people of the Four Seas Pavilion were rather interesting. That's good. I can be at ease now. Luo Qingtong nodded. Humph. Let's talk about this after you hunt for the Yang Soul stone. Do you really think the Yang Soul stone is that easy to obtain? Mu Ruyu said with a mocking expression. Is this girl's first time in the Kai Yuan secret realm? She will know how hard it is to obtain the Yang Soul stone later. Shameless boasting. Chapter 519. Slap. 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 As the group chased after the Sun Soul Emperor beast, they encountered many Sun Soul King beasts along the way. The strange thing was that even though they were both hunting Sun Soul King beasts, Luo Qingtong's side had a much higher chance of obtaining a Sun Soul stone than the Empire of Qin's side. After killing a few Sun Soul King beasts in a row, the Empire of Qin's side didn't obtain a single Sun Soul stone. On the Four Seas court side, as long as Luo Qingtong made a move, they would basically obtain a Sun Soul stone. This was because Luo Qingtong discovered that these Sun Soul King beasts had a core point in their bodies. Once this core point was broken, the power in the Sun Soul King beast's body would condense into a Sun Soul stone. And if they didn't hit it, their power would completely dissipate. This was also the reason why Luo Qingtong had obtained a Sun Soul stone when she killed two Sun Soul King beasts in a row. She had an eye technique, so she could naturally see the core point in the Sun Soul King beast's body. But the others could only rely on their luck. Luo Qingtong didn't reveal too much. Out of 3 or 4 attacks, she basically succeeded once. But even so, the accumulated Sun Soul stone was still very impressive, causing Mu Ruyu's eyes to turn red with anger. Bang! The group chased after the Sun Soul Emperor beast's aura and arrived at a dark red kernel. The Sun Soul Emperor beast's appearance was several times larger than the Sun Soul King beast, and its entire appearance was even more sinister. Another huge head grew out of its head, and spikes covered its entire body. Its entire body was brimming with astonishing power. Boom! The Sun Soul Emperor beast was surrounded by everyone. It instantly let out a sharp howl and attacked Luo Qingtong and the others. The scorching wind, accompanied by its breath, sprayed everywhere. Hot wind and strong qi were everywhere. Lady Luo, guard the periphery and wait for an opportunity to make a move. Gong Xinghai led the people from the Four Seas court to surround it. Yuan Mo also led the people from the empire of Qin's sacred court to surround it. Mu Ruyu stayed behind to guard the empire of Qin's sacred court. The two teams surrounded it. Rumble. The group of people fought against the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. Bang! Yuan Mo wielded a large cyan sword and fiercely attacked the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. Every attack would cause the Sun Soul Emperor Beast to suffer heavy injuries. Upper Grade Martial King. Seeing Yuan Mo's cultivation, Luo Qingtong smiled. It seemed that Yuan Mo was living a good life in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. His strength had increased so quickly. Generally speaking, the students who were admitted to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin were not stronger than the Martial King realm. Only peerless geniuses could enter the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin at the Martial King realm. Yuan Mo's strength should not have reached the Martial King realm when he entered the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. He should have been at the Quasi-King realm at most. It was obvious that his strength had been raised in the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. As expected of the Holy Court of the Holy Dynasty. Showy but impractical. Little Ming Zun's voice was cold as he squatted on Luo Qingtong's shoulder. He looked in Yuan Mo's direction with a cold gaze. This was the man who was engaged to this woman. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong's obvious disdain for Yuan Mo, Yi Qianxian didn't know if he would have been able to hold himself back from attacking him. This woman should be his. How could this man named Yuan Mo be able to have such an open and honorable engagement with her? The man who should be with her should be me. It could only be me. Chapter 520. Luo Qingtong nonchalantly replied. It is indeed a showy but impractical move. A bloody light flickered in Luo Qingtong's eyes. In her eye technique, Yuan Mo's and the others' attacks were full of flaws. With her current martial marquis strength and the life and death yin-yang sword, it wouldn't be a problem for her to kill the people in front of her. Even the weaknesses of the Emperor Sun Soul Beast were in her eyes. Under such circumstances, if Yuan Mo's attacks weren't showy but impractical, then what were? In this world, there were too few attacks that Luo Qingtong couldn't see through. Rumble. Following Yuan Mo's and Gong Xinghai's attacks, the Emperor Sun Soul Beast retreated in defeat. It started to run toward Luo Qingtong and Mu Ruyu, wanting to break out of the encirclement. Junior sister, Lady Luo, be careful not to let it escape. Yuan Mo raised his voice. He didn't know why, but when he called out Luo Qingtong's name, he felt a strange feeling in his heart. Luo, this surname always made him feel strange. Yuan Mo frowned slightly when he thought about his fiancée in the eastern border country. Yuan Mo felt vexed when he heard that she was in the Tianyu Branch Academy and had cheated to enter the trash class. He didn't have any feelings for his fiancée, but couldn't that girl know her place and not come out to embarrass him? He gave her a recommendation letter and she pretended to be generous and gave it to someone else. It was fine if she gave it to someone else. If she had the ability, she could have entered the Tianyu Branch Academy with her own abilities. But she cheated and was assigned to the trash class. He, Yuan Mo, was known as the #1 genius in the Tianyu Branch Academy and was praised by everyone in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy. But in the end, he had a fiancée who was assigned to the trash class. If others knew about this, they would laugh their heads off. Fortunately, that girl couldn't enter the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy. Otherwise, he wouldn't know where to put his face. Thinking about that, Yuan Mo's expression turned cold. When he looked at Luo Qingtong, his gaze became gentler. It would be great if his fiancée was Miss Luo Qi. He didn't know why, but ever since he saw Luo Qingtong outside the black field, Yuan Mo's heart couldn't calm down. He had seen many women, but none of them gave him the same feeling as Luo Qingtong. Carefree, wanton, evil, soaring. From that moment on, his heart was moved. However, the other party clearly had no feelings for him. Seeing that Luo Qingtong didn't even look at him, Yu Wenma felt indescribably annoyed. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was completely focused on the Sun Soul Emperor beast that was running towards them. The latter was much larger than the Sun Soul King beast, and there were actually 3 core points in its body. Would he only be able to obtain a Yang Soul Imperial Stone if he hit all 3 spots, or would he be able to obtain 3 Yang Soul Imperial Stones if he hit all 3 spots? Luo Qingtong already knew from Gong Xinghai and the others that the effects of a Yang Soul Imperial Stone were dozens of times better than a Yang Soul Stone. Not only could it purify one's soul and talent, it could also allow martial artists and soul practitioners to break through while ignoring bottlenecks. Without the shackles of realms. This was definitely a good thing. If Luo Qingtong came alone, this Sun Soul Emperor beast could still run if it couldn't beat her. But now, with so many people here and surrounding the other party, Luo Qingtong had to get a piece of Yang Soul Royal Stone. Boom! After clearly seeing the location of the 3 core points, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and pulled out the Wind and Thunder Sword. This Wind and Thunder Sword was a martial emperor-level spirit weapon. Although Song Cheng had carved a bunch of useless inscription patterns on it, just the power of wind and thunder on it was already a top-grade martial emperor-level spirit weapon. Chapter 521. Clang. Following the unsheathing of the wind and lightning sword, the sound of metal, wind, and thunder reverberated continuously, sonorous and powerful. Everyone was shocked when they heard it. It was especially so for those martial practitioners that practiced the wind and lightning technique. They could hear the pure power of the wind and lightning sword. It was extremely powerful. They didn't expect her to possess such a powerful spiritual weapon. They didn't know which power's core genius disciple was from. It should be known that only Sage Realm experts could casually bestow such a grade of spiritual weapon. Experts of other realms wouldn't be so generous. Even if they wanted it, it would definitely be a treasured genius disciple. Just as the Four Seas Pavilion and the Empire of Qin's disciples' expressions changed slightly, Mu Ruyu suddenly gritted her teeth. She looked at Luo Qingtong with unconcealable jealousy and hatred. The whip in her hand was a martial emperor-grade spiritual weapon that her parents had personally requested. But its quality and effect were obviously inferior to Luo Qingtong's wind and lightning sword. This woman had ruined her face and stolen her limelight. Mu Ruyu was enraged. Swish! She raised her hand and lashed out with her whip. When the whip was lashed toward the Sun Soul Emperor beast, it coincidentally swept the scorching wind blades that it had spat out toward Luo Qingtong. At the same time, the tip of the whip was like a poisonous dragon emerging from its lair. It seemed to be faintly discernible as it swept toward Luo Qingtong, blocking her attack. Lady Luo, be careful. Gong Xinghai immediately shouted when he felt that there was something wrong with Mu Ruyu's whip. At the same time, he glared at Mu Ruyu and said, Mu Ruyu, what are you doing? What am I doing? I'm intercepting the Sun Soul Emperor beast. Mu Ruyu snickered. After sweeping the scorching wind blades toward Luo Qingtong, she leaped forward and lashed her whip toward the injured Sun Soul Emperor beast. It was obvious that she wanted to let Luo Qingtong take on all the attacks while she killed the Sun Soul Emperor beast. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly cold when she saw Mu Ruyu's actions. Swish! Her body moved slightly as she dodged Mu Ruyu's attack. At the same time, the 5 fingers on her left hand moved. Ah! Following the movement of Luo Qingtong's left hand, the left side of Mu Ruyu's face instantly twitched in pain. Ah! It hurts. She clutched the left side of her face and twitched violently. The veil on her face fell off. In an instant, the countless human face ghost boils on the left side of her face wriggled and appeared in front of everyone. TSK. Disgusting. What the hell is that? Seeing the continuously wriggling rotting human face on Mu Ruyu's face, the members of the Four Seas Pavilion revealed unbearable disgust. Even the people from the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin turned their heads away and didn't look at Mu Ruyu. Even though they had seen it many times, they still couldn't look directly at the human face ghost sore on Mu Ruyu's face. It was too disgusting. Ah! So painful. Slut, what did you do to me? Mu Ruyu covered her face as she shrieked in pain. It must be that slut's doing. These things should have already been treated and put to sleep. As long as I can obtain enough soul stones this time, these ghastly things on my face will be healed. Luo Qingtong had indeed used the yin energy of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood to revive those human face ghost sores. Who asked Mu Ruyu to do this to me? It's impolite not to reciprocate. She had wanted to make a move on Mu Ruyu before, but she had temporarily stopped because of the appearance of the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. She didn't expect that Mu Ruyu would still attack herself. Luo Qingtong's eyes were ice cold. Boom! While she was activating the human face ghost sores on Mu Ruyu's face, the sword light in her right hand struck the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. But due to Mu Ruyu's obstruction, that attack didn't kill the Sun Soul Emperor Beast. Chapter 522. Rumble. All of a sudden, the surrounding air exploded violently. Large amounts of black clouds rolled in the sky. The air in the surroundings surged and the earth shook. What's going on? Yuan Mo and the others, who had rushed over to attack the Spirit Emperor Beast, swayed. Yuan Ma's cyan greatsword dimmed in an instant and fell into his hand. A faint black aura coiled around the cyan sword. Death aura. Yuan Mo's expression changed drastically when he saw the black aura coiling around the cyan sword. Rumble. The tremors in the sky became more obvious. In the distance, large amounts of black clouds soared and formed a large black mountain. It overlapped with the area they were at. A blood-red crescent moon suddenly appeared in the sky. Oh no! It's the tide of the months of demons. Someone cried out in alarm. It's the annual tide of the months of demons. It's happening early this year. Let's go. When the Yin Spirit Mountain appears, this place will be occupied by countless dead souls. All living things will be devoured and killed. Yuan Mo and the others were shocked when they saw the strange phenomenon in the sky. The human face ghost soar on the left side of Mu Ruyu's face felt the vigorous Yin aura in the air and howled even louder. It tore at her flesh, causing her to cry out in pain. Let's go. Use your identity plate and leave this place quickly. All the disciples of large powers that entered the Kai Yuan mystic realm would have an identity plate that could teleport them out of the Kai Yuan mystic realm at any time. When Yuan Mo and the others noticed the change in the tide of the months of demons, they immediately prepared to use their identity plates to leave this place. The tide of the months of demons was a great calamity in the Kai Yuan mystic realm. When the tide started, the entire Kai Yuan mystic realm would be enveloped by the aura of the Yin Spirit Mountain. Countless dead souls would appear. If the months of demons didn't vanish, the dead souls wouldn't vanish. The living would perish. Anyone who encountered the tide of the months of demons would have to leave immediately. The timing of the tide of the months of demons was uncertain. Yuan Mo and the others didn't expect their luck to be so good that they would encounter the tide of the months of demons this time. Lady Luo Qi, quick! Yuan Mo wanted Luo Qingtong to leave with them, but he realized that the girl was nowhere to be found. Bang bang bang! Luo Qingtong led the Sun Soul Emperor Beast to attack while retreating. The moment the tide of the months of demons erupted, the latter seemed to have been stimulated by something and attacked her madly. Not wanting to expose her strength in front of Yuan Ma and the others, Luo Qingtong led the Sun Soul Emperor Beast away. She also heard the words of Yuan Ma and the others. The tide of the months of demons, the appearance of the dead souls, the death of the living. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. The disciples of the major powers who came in through legitimate means could naturally leave with their identity tokens, but what about the students of Tianyu Branch Academy? TSK. How troublesome. With a swoosh, Luo Qingtong's figure flew up. In the next second, the Tempest sword in her hand was replaced by the life and death yin-yang sword. The sword slashed down. Rumble. The Sun Soul Emperor beast instantly fell in front of her. The power in its body transformed into 3 Sun Soul Emperor stones. The size and color of the Sun Soul Emperor stones were much larger than the Sun Soul Emperor stones. Luo Qingtong looked at the energy flowing on them and felt the pure color inside. She put them away. Then she flew up and rushed out of the yin-yang Soul Mountain. Chapter 523. Swoosh. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong moved in the yin-yang Soul Mountain. As the tide of months of demons took shape, the blood moon in the sky became more and more obvious. In the air, illusory soul bodies began to distort and charged towards Luo Qingtong with a sharp howl. The dead souls filled the air. 100 ghosts parade. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong opened the death blade in her hand. As the dead souls pounced on her, she drew a full moon shape and killed them quickly. Bang! 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 Wherever the girl's figure passed by, it was like a huge black whirlpool, killing all the dead souls. However, after those dead souls dissipated, new dead souls were born. Luo Qingtong killed the dead souls as she walked. She rushed to the edge of the Kaiyuan Mystery Land. The space here has been distorted. In her arms, little Nether Venerable looked solemn. His handsome and cold face was now filled with a serious expression. So, we are trapped here? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed as she killed the dead souls that kept charging at her. Swoosh! She rushed out of the yin-yang Soul Mountain. As she left, fewer dead souls were born. Some of the dead souls that pounced on her were easily killed by Luo Qingtong. Yes. Unless an expert of the sage state breaks the space from the inside and sends you out, you will be trapped here, Yi Qianxian said in a low voice. The tide of months of demons began. The aura of the Yin Soul Mountain filled the air. His separated soul was imprisoned in the heart of the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood. Because it was also a soul, it was very sensitive to the aura. He sensed that the passageways to the outside world in the Kaiyuan Mystery Land were all closed when the tide of months of demons appeared. The disciples of the big forces could leave with their identity nameplates. However, Luo Qingtong and the others did not have any identity nameplates. Even if there were people outside who wanted to save them, they could not locate them. Unless there was an expert of the sage state who could send them out. However, there were only a few instructors from Tianyu Branch, and the most of them were at the peak of the Martial Emperor realm. Even if the increase was not as great as the consumption, it would at most reach the Martial Emperor realm. What use would that kind of strength have at this time? When the power of the tide of the months of demons was released from the yin-yang Soul Mountain, the entire mountain would be filled with dead souls. That bit of strength of theirs could not even be considered cannon fodder. In the tide of the months of demons, even a Saint Realm expert would be exhausted and die. After all, the number of dead souls was boundless. Let's go and take a look first. Luo Qingtong frowned. Who would have thought that he would encounter such a thing after entering the Kaiyuan mystic realm to train? If the dean of the Tianyu Branch School knew that he had sent his students here on a whim, only to be met with such a calamity, who knew if he would vomit blood outside? In fact, the dean of the Tianyu Branch was already vomiting blood. Quick! Hurry up and invite Song. Teacher Song Cheng. Hearing that the tide of the months of demons had erupted in the Kaiyuan secret realm, and that the disciples of the major forces had left the secret realm, the dean of the Tianyu Branch shouted as if he had lost his mind. Quick! The instructors of the Tianyu branch school were also burning with anxiety. Chapter 524. However, the latter had just received Luo Qingtong's guidance and was experimenting with his inscription pattern in the laboratory. He was determined to refine an interspatial ring of more than 10 square meters. A group of mentors had been wandering around the Sage Realm array outside his dormitory for a long time, but they couldn't disturb him at all. They had no choice but to report back to the branch dean. The latter could only vomit blood while shouting, "Invite the experts of the Saint Court of the Empire of Qin to come. Invite the experts of the Saint Court of the Empire of Qin to come." An entire school of students. If they were really destroyed in the Kaiyuan mystic realm, then he, the branch dean, would really be finished. Just as the outside world was in a mess, Luo Qingtong had already reached the edge of the Kaiyuan mystic realm. Swoosh! The blood light in her eyes flashed, and she quickly found Sima Ju's location based on the inscription pattern's aura she left on him. However, just as she got close to where they were, she suddenly felt an attack flying over from the side. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure flashed, and she instantly dodged that attack. Just then, she heard Su Xiaoxiao's sobbing voice not far away. You're too much. After Su Xiaoxiao's voice, it was Ling Yu's voice. You Wuxia, Shiqingqing, you'll die a horrible death. Luo Qingtong frowned and looked forward. In the open area ahead, Ling Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, Yuanhu, Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan, and the others were surrounded by Yu Wuxia, Shiqingqing, Zhan Haopeng, and the other students on the genius ranking. Rather than saying surrounded, it was more like they were surrounded by a group of dead souls. However, Shiqingqing and the others had more people, and they surrounded Ling Yu, and the others in the center, forming a three-layered encirclement. Perhaps it was because they were near the swamp and the yin qi was heavier, but the number of dead souls spawned there was not a small number. At this moment, they had completely surrounded Shiqingqing, Ling Yu, and the others. The number of dead souls was endless. Once they were killed, they would continue to spawn. It was obvious that some of Shiqingqing's people couldn't hold on any longer and immediately had evil intentions. They wanted to divert the attention of the dead souls by sending Yuan Hu and the others to their deaths so that they could escape. Bang bang bang. A portion of the group stayed behind to attack the dead souls, while the rest attacked Yuan Hu and the others. Ling Yu, and the others' angry rebukes came from this. They originally needed to resist the attacks of the dead souls, but Shiqingqing and the others still wanted to hit them while they were down, wanting to use their deaths in exchange for a chance to live. Who wouldn't hate them? What's more, they had just been training here and were about to leave when they saw the dead souls appear. It was Shiqingqing and the others who lured a group of dead souls over, causing them to be trapped here. Now, they wanted to send them to their deaths. Ling Yu, and little tyrant Yuan were instantly enraged. Even Su Xiaoxiao, who was usually the most timid and shy girl, was looking at them with red eyes, as if she wanted to kill them. Little Ju, are you alright? Su Xiaoxiao looked at Sima Ju. After the group separated from Luo Qingtong, they had been training together. They were already very familiar with each other and called each other by their names. Sima Ju was the first to be attacked. Compared to the battle alchemist, Su Xiaoxiao who was protected in the middle, the delicate and slender beautiful young man Sima Ju looked easier to deal with. This was also because after Luo Qingtong helped Sima Ju retract his 10,000 poison body, his appearance was very deceptive. Chapter 525. Looking at the genius list student who had pushed Sima Ju out painfully clutching his hand and rolling on the ground, Sima Ju's dark eyes flashed with a cold and indifferent light. This person was looking for death. Shiqingqing and the rest didn't expect that Sima Ju, who looked like the easiest to bully, was actually the hardest to deal with. They thought that after pushing Sima Ju out, Yuan Hu and the rest would be in a mess and they would be able to defeat them one by one. They didn't expect Sima Ju to be fine and cripple one of their genius list students' hand. Since when were the trash class students so powerful? If they had such talent and strength, how could they not enter the elite class? Shi Qingqing and the rest were depressed, but now wasn't the time to think about it. The dead souls' attacks were getting more and more concentrated and powerful. If this continued, they would all die here. Let's attack together. Zhang Haopeng said coldly. The other genius list students echoed in unison. Junior Ling, I'm sorry. Shi Qingqing looked at Ling Yu, and Ling Tianhan and said, we are the most important students in the school. I think the dean and the mentors will also sacrifice you guys for us. You guys stay. Help us block the dead souls. As for your heroic deeds, I will report it to the dean and the mentors when we return to the school. They will know. Ling Public House will also be proud of you guys. That's right. It's your honor to die to protect us. Yuan Xue was protected at the back. She looked at Ling Yu and the rest and said, Ling Yu blame yourself for being with a bunch of trash class students. They deserve to be our stepping stone and cushion. As she spoke, the genius list students had already attacked. Bang bang bang. Yuan Hu and the rest were already at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Even with Yuan Hu's petrification soul imprint and innate strength and Ling Tianhan's outstanding strength, they were still no match for Shi Qingqing and the rest. The group was forced into the depths of the dead souls. They were attacked from both sides. Big brother. Ling Yu and the rest were furious when they saw Ling Tianhan's sword was knocked down and he had to face the attacks of Shi Qingqing and the rest. At this moment, swoosh! Luo Qingtong's figure suddenly appeared beside them. In the next second, the wind and thunder sword appeared. Clang! Between heaven and earth, the sound of wind and thunder resounded. Luo Qingtong directly swept her sword across. Bang! 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 Before the countless dead souls could even get close, they were scattered by the power of wind and thunder in Luo Qingtong's oscillating wind and thunder sword. Although this killing effect was not as good as the life and death sword's death edge, it was still quite powerful. If Luo Qingtong used her life and death yin-yang swords, all the dead souls within a radius of 100 meters would be annihilated. Bang! After the wind and lightning sword killed those dead souls, it swept towards Shi Qingqing and the others. Under the shocked gazes of the latter and the others, with a boom, all of their attacks were shattered into pieces, and they were all injured. Puff! Shi Qingqing and the others spat out a mouthful of blood as they stared at the young girl in front of them in shock. Luo Qingtong. Looking at the red figure that appeared in front of them, they were indescribably shocked. She swept away so many dead souls with one sword, shattered their attacks, and injured them. How strong was Luo Qingtong? You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.